space-time transaction, exchanging food for the elf princess at the start. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201. I'll give you 5 million knives first, and then I'll give you another 10 million knives after everything is done. Is your name Matsushima Morichiro? Su Yi took out his cell phone and took a look at it thoughtfully. Sure enough, based on the information he provided, Shianshu had already thoroughly investigated Matsushima Morichiro, but did not edit the findings into information and send it over. This includes the causes and consequences of this assassination. Looking at the things recorded in the data, Suyi couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, looked at the assassin with some sympathy and said, "Brother, do you know who is behind Ichiro Matsushima? Is he a footbath guy?" "No, he does not belong to any force." Suyi asked again, "Do you know how much money the CIA spent on this assassination?" With a slim chance, the assassin shook his head blankly. "A total of $1 billion. To be honest, compared to my worth and influence, if you only give this price, Bald Eagle and the others are really stingy," Suyi said with a smile. Then, for the billion, they originally planned to hire at least 20 or 30 internationally notorious assassins to carry out the assassination, to ensure nothing went wrong. As a result, after the funds were released, Commissioner Smith, who was specifically responsible for handling this matter, took away 500 million. Then, they were subcontracted in layers along the way. In the end, what ended up in the hands of Ichiro Matsushima was less than $50 million. Yes, he is also an international killer, but after taking this order, he thought the risk was too great, so he transferred 45 million of it to several different accounts and used the last 5 million to find you. Well, you guessed it right. The so-called balance does not exist at all. He took the money away long ago. As for Matsushima Morichiro, he is not the person you imagined from the Footpot Chicken or the Bald Eagle official. He is also an international killer. TSK. Suyi looked at the confused assassin, and some of his colleagues said, "Do you think no one tried to assassinate me before? You don't think about why those people disappeared later. You see, compared to a stupid young man like you, that Matsushima Morichiro is much smarter. He spends a small amount of money to do big things, but gets the big bucks for himself." When he opened his mouth, he was already broken, but now he was even more broken. "Come in." After saying this, Suyuki shouted outside. The heavy wooden door of the private room was opened immediately, and several armed personnel from the security department wearing exoskeleton armor walked in. Suyi pointed at the confused assassin on the ground. "Take him down and torture him well. It doesn't matter whether you can find out anything useful. What's important is that you torture him well. There's no need to save the water of life. Just don't let him die." The assassin finally came to his senses and quickly begged for mercy. "Drive. Dong-Su. I was also confused for a moment. Please give me a chance. Let me live. I have money. I have a lot of money, and I can give it to you. By the way, I also know many unknown secrets that I can tell you. Just give me a pleasure." Noisy. Woo. You. Ling drank lightly. The few soldiers from the security department who dragged the assassin out immediately covered his mouth. "He just said that Jiazhao asked him to come. Why don't you believe it at all? As long as you die, Jiazhao will indeed have a reason to take over the Shianyu group. There is a certain suspicion, right?" Yuling asked curiously. Of course I don't believe it. It's not like there's something wrong with the brains of the top management of Jiazhao. They just gave me tens of millions of tons of grain and haven't seen any return yet. I'm now in debt. Which creditor would want the person who owes him money to die?" Suyi said somewhat amusedly. "Moreover, the top management of Jiazhao are one of the few people on Blue Star who know that we have certain supernatural powers. How could they do such a meaningless thing, except to offend us?" That Matsushima Morichiro, the one whose name is called Takumi, a normal person would probably immediately think that he is an assassin sent by Takumi, right? Why are you so sure it's not the case? I remember that Shianshu hadn't given you the information at that time. When? Did I say no? Suyi looked at Yuling and smiled. Zabaji sent a killer named Matsushi Morichiro, together with a person just now, to assassinate the chairman and the chairman's wife of Shianayu Group. In half an hour, this news will be on the front page of all news. But, didn't you just say that he doesn't belong? Doesn't it belong to the official website of Footpot Chicken? Suyi shrugged. It is true that he is not the person sent by the official website of Footpot Chicken, but I don't care. I said he is, and he is. This man is not far from Penglay Island now. He is on vacation with an oil man in the Middle East. Xianshu has sent 2 soldiers from the security department wearing power armor to catch him. When he is captured, there will be irrefutable evidence. Of course we can't let go of the bald eagle. Do you think I will handle these things in a low-key manner? Wrong. I will put all the process of how this billion of funds were allocated from the bottom to the middle to how it was exploited at every level, and where the money went, will be put online without reservation. Don't all netizens like to watch fun? Such great fun must be shared. Anyway, the bald eagle and the chicken are teaming up to assassinate me. This matter must be done no matter what. Believe me, it will definitely be useful. While talking, the two of them also walked out of the private room. As soon as he went out, he saw the restaurant owner standing at the door trembling, not daring to move. Suyi encountered an assassin in his restaurant. If this happened in ancient times, he would have been executed along with his entire clan. And Suyi's authority in Penglay Island was probably even more outrageous than that of the ancient emperor. It would be a lie for the restaurant owner to say that he was not afraid. After looking at him, Suyi said in a gentle voice, "Where is the waiter?" The restaurant owner was stunned for a moment before realizing that he was asking about the waiter who was replaced by the assassin, and hurriedly said, "He was knocked unconscious and thrown into the utility room in the back kitchen." "Well, it's good that he's okay. Send him to the hospital to see a doctor. When the time comes, ask the group's finance department to reimburse the expenses, and the damaged items can also be reimbursed." So, Yi waved his hand, took Yuling's arm, and walked out. The restaurant owner felt as if he had been pardoned and couldn't help but collapse to the ground with weak legs. Chapter 202. Just as he walked out of the restaurant, an explosion sounded from the other side of the island, followed by a sky full of brilliance. Obviously, this was a scheduled fireworks show. Suyi and Yuling found a beach and quietly admired the fireworks in the sky. They couldn't help but sigh that Xianshu had really arranged everything for this kind of activity. They even arranged this kind of small show after dinner in the evening. It can be regarded as leaving some good memories for people who came to Penglay Island for the first time. However, in the sound of bursts of fireworks, Suyi seemed to hear some different explosions. Turning to look at Yuling beside him, he happened to see Yuling turning his head and looking over. "You heard it too, you?" Ling nodded and pointed to the southeast corner of the island. There was an explosion over there in the industrial zone, which was not the same as the sound of these fireworks. So, Yi smiled, then took out his mobile phone and said, "Xianshu, aren't you going to give me an explanation?" With Xianshu's ability, everyone who goes to the island will be screened layer by layer, and their belongings will be checked when they go to the island. It is basically impossible for any problems to occur. If an assassin got on the island, it could be said that it was Xianshu's fault, or the identity information of the other party as an assassin on the internet was difficult to search, and Xianshu could not find a suitable one. But if the assassin was caught somewhere else and something went wrong, it would obviously be abnormal, sir. In fact, I deliberately put these people on the island. Xianshu replied calmly, "Including the assassin?" "Yes, including the assassin." As an AI, Xianshu's tone was obviously calm, and he said lightly, "In the original plan, I would have someone catch him at this time, and then reveal his identity and the person who ordered him to come, so as to blame the assassin problem on the chicken country, create some nominal reasons for the group, and gain more benefits, because you and your wife are on the roof of the group headquarters most of the time. It is absolutely safe, and letting in some assassins and terrorists will not affect your safety. It's just that my program can't predict that you will go downstairs on a whim today." "Sure. Enough. The behavior of the group can be predicted by the algorithm model, but the behavior of the individual is always in chaos and cannot be predicted by calculation. Cheyenne Chu's tone seems to be a little helpless. So, this is all in your plan? Suyi raised his eyebrows. Why didn't you remind me when I went downstairs? Actually, I reminded you, but because you didn't wear headphones today, I couldn't remind you directly. I could only send it to your phone via SMS, but you don't seem to like to take out your phone to kill time when you have nothing to do, so you haven't paid attention to it. Cheyenne replied. Suyi flipped up the messages in the notification bar of his phone. Wow, there are really a lot of reminders from Cheyenne, and it has already explained all its plans. The sending time was probably when he and Yuling planned to go downstairs. It's just that after coming down, he took Yuling to stroll around and had no time to look at his phone, so he ignored it. Plus, those assassins are completely no threat to you. So in order not to disturb you and your wife's interest, I didn't remind you too much. Cheyenne explained again. Its plan was actually quite complete, but its boss suddenly couldn't make up and went downstairs to go shopping, which it hadn't thought of before. Just as it said, when humans, intelligent creatures, integrate into a group, their behavior is often predictable, but when they are alone, it is often chaotic. It's like standing from the perspective of a normal human being. Everyone thinks that eating shit and running naked are things that only psychopaths would do. But in reality, many people with normal brains would do such things against the will of heaven. This is unpredictable personal behavior. Therefore, in modern society, the upper class often uses various means to guide people to join circles and have their own positions. The unpredictability brought about by this personal behavior is offset by the natural nature of human social creatures. As long as you are in a certain circle, then in things related to this circle, your behavior is predictable, not chaotic. And if a person enters enough circles, then most of the person's behavior will eventually become predictable. This is a means to weaken unpredictable individual behavior in society and enhance predictable group behavior. Cheyenne will of course use this method. But the problem is that Suyi, as an overly special individual, basically doesn't buy it. Even including Yuling and Crossing Hen, two visitors from another world. What kind of behavior habits they will have to a certain extent, Cheyenne can calculate a little bit through calculation. But this set doesn't work on Suyi. And as Suyi is the master, Cheyenne can't use this set of things on Suyi. In Bailu's world, this kind of intelligent AI can be used on anyone, but it must not be used on its own master, which recommends some relevant information through calculation, determines people's positions, makes people enter group thinking, and gives up, weakening individual unpredictability. Otherwise, it means that the intelligent AI is trying to manipulate humans, which is absolutely not allowed. Cheyenne underlying code will not allow it to do this. So when Suyi suddenly wants to do something, Cheyenne really has no way to deal with it. Even after finding something wrong and wanting to remind him, Suyi didn't receive it at all. That's why the assassin almost succeeded. Of course, it was mainly because Cheyenne actually knew that the assassin would never succeed. Even if its knife really stabbed Suyi, he didn't take any protection and couldn't pierce his skin. It was just an ordinary table knife. Whether it was sharp or not was secondary. The main thing was that the assassin's strength was too weak and his strength was not enough to break Suyi's defense. So Cheyenne just sent a simple SMS reminder. Suyi didn't notice it, and he was too lazy to say more. Anyway, his boss wouldn't be in trouble. On the contrary, Cheyenne thought that Suyi might be very excited about this kind of assassination. Sometimes it's like this. The boss just needs to enjoy life and the happiness brought by various stimulations encountered in life, while intelligent AI has a lot to consider. It not only has to arrange various plans, but also needs to consider providing emotional value to its big boss to make the boss happy. Nowadays, even if you are an AI, you have to consider not only cold programs and algorithms, but also human relationships. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203. So everything is in your plan? So what is going on now, Su? Yi pointed to the industrial area, obviously asking about the explosion just now. Xianshu immediately replied, this is a group of terrorists from the oil region. The organization that sent them here is called Mossad. It is the intelligence organization known as the Little Overlord in the oil region. The purpose of this group of people coming to the island is actually very simple. It is not to carry out any terrorist attack, but to try to sneak into the factory area and snatch the technical data. The focus is the factory, where our exoskeleton production line is located. Their actions were relatively professional, and they did not go to the island through formal methods after being screened by me. Instead, they took advantage of the bustle on the island during today's open day, and took a small submarine to approach the offshore waters of Penglay Island, and then went through the diving process. Means landing from the beach. By the way, among the employees of the Xianyu group on the island, someone has received more than 10 million yuan from them before to act as their internal agent and provide them with information on the island, including which beach has the fewest cameras and where there is surveillance. The blind spot. The intelligence provided them with quite detailed information on the garrison strength of the industrial area on the island, and how the exoskeleton warriors of the security department usually patrol and rotate, including the information about this open day. Internal officials provided intelligence to the outside world early, which allowed these people to prepare early. Of course, this information is all under my supervision, and I also passed on some false news through this internal channel. For example, Su Yi said with interest. For example, in the computer room on the third floor of the factory, where the exoskeleton production line is located in the Penglay Island industrial zone, there is a host computer, which stores the technical information on exoskeleton armor, as well as the technical information and production methods of X7674 special alloy. For another example, when it was first opened to the outside world, because the island currently has too few residents, the group wanted to show the vibrant scene of the island to foreign tourists, making the island less deserted. Today, give all employees in the factory a day off. The factory is now completely empty. Only the patrolling exoskeleton warriors of the security department are still patrolling at the same pace as before. There is no doubt that the previous patrol rhythm has huge loopholes. They have mastered this pattern. When the inside of the factory is completely empty, they can seize the gaps in the patrol and easily sneak into the factory, and then take the technical information. In order to prevent these people from having really knowledgeable technical experts, I have processed the technical information stored in this host to a certain extent, and made up a set of fake information that can almost look real. Even this, all the relevant experts in the world will not be able to find any problems with this information until the actual object is created. So, you are not planning to arrest these people now, but are planning to let them leave directly with the technical information? Su Yi discovered the meaning of Xianshu's words. It has gone to great lengths to build so many things, and no matter how hard it looks, it has no intention of taking down these people now, as expected of the boss. He easily saw through my intentions. Xianshu immediately replied, if there is just a group of assassins or terrorists infiltrated on the island, even if we kill them, the people behind them will have enough reasons to blame them. But they stole important technical information. After taking the information back, we then come to steal it and seize it. That is another matter. You even thoughtfully prepared all the stolen goods for them, right? Su Yi couldn't help but mourn for these unfortunate people. As a very purposeful group. Under Xianshu's algorithm, even the color of their underwear was exposed, and there was no privacy at all. They even guessed that Xianyu group was phishing, and sent experts to check whether the information was authentic. They also prepared a copy of the information in advance, and put it in Penglay Island. Inside the factory. Several white soldiers wearing diving suits and holding rifles looked around cautiously. A middle-aged man who looked quite young and dressed similarly was checking the information on the laptop in front of him. The other end of the computer is connected to a mainframe in the factory that is set to store important technical data. You ready? How long will it take? The captain leading the team glanced at the dark factory and asked eagerly. They had just used the time to set off fireworks to blow open the door of the factory's machine room. The bomb used was a specially made one with a very low sound and was covered by the sound of fireworks explosions. In addition, based on time, the explosion happened to be when the exoskeleton soldiers of the security department were farthest away from here. So they were relatively confident that no one could hear the explosion. But despite this, sneaking into the notorious Shia group headquarters to steal other people's core technical information is enough to make any experienced mercenary nervous and scared. As professional mercenaries, these people have studied the exoskeletons of the Shia group on their own. They even bought a set of Sentinel-1 light exoskeletons at the end of the retail market to try them out, but they have not been shipped yet. They knew very well that, even though their group was now fully armed, they looked very powerful. The actual situation is that once they are discovered, even if they are tied together, they may not be able to defeat a light exoskeleton. Not to mention the Sentinel-3 heavy exoskeleton. The standard equipment of the Shia group's security department is all this kind of stuff. The few broken guns in their hands can only deter ordinary people. If they really encounter a heavy exoskeleton that can scare people by its size, it is no different from a fire stick. It is impossible to penetrate the enemy's armor. Don't rush. I'm looking at the information, the middle-aged man said with some dissatisfaction. The Shia group has not set up any strict firewalls in these hosts. It is not difficult to crack them, but there are too many and too complicated information inside. I have to take a look first to confirm whether this is the information we are looking for. It's just to confirm the authenticity. Why does it take so long? The captain was also impatient. He didn't want to care whether the information was true or false. As a mercenary, the purpose of his operation this time was to sneak into Penglay Island and take away this host. Whether the things in the host are real or fake, it has nothing to do with him. If Zandeng was not sent by Party A, the captain would have kicked him over and carried the host away just because of his hesitation. This place is much more dangerous than a dangerous place. He actually planned to check the information in such a place. Isn't that too long for his life? Chapter 204. 3 minutes. You have at most 3 minutes. The captain looked at his watch and said without letting anyone know, in 3 minutes, the Shia group security department will be patrolling the factory. At that time, we just need to return along the original route. If we miss this opportunity, we will either have to risk being discovered and break through by force, or we will have to wait another half an hour. This island gives me a very strange feeling, as if our every move is under the watchful eyes of some kind of god, which makes me very unnatural. If we don't leave early, I'm afraid we will be in big trouble. The feeling is coming. How come you, a man, also have a sixth sense? The technician who was looking at the information said disdainfully, even if there are gods, they will protect our descendants and let us complete this mission safely. They will not harm us. He has been unhappy with these mercenaries for a long time. Now that he has caught the opportunity to talk nonsense, of course he is unwilling to let it go. Wouldn't it be a loss if he didn't mock them a few times? The captain was talked about a few times, opened his mouth, and didn't know how to refute, so he could only say angrily, why don't you read your information quickly? You talk so much nonsense. Do you really think you are the descendant of gods? Will you not die if you are shot? I have finished reading it. The technician slowly put away the laptop, turned to look at the team leader, and said disdainfully, many people have a kind of ability, that is, multitasking. If I don't even have this ability, how can I be pulled to perform such a dangerous task? Stop talking nonsense. Can it be used? Move it, this, and the one over there. Move them all away. The technician pointed to several hosts and reminded them, by the way, we will swim back in a while. It is best to waterproof it now, otherwise the information inside will be lost. Even if the gods come, it will be difficult to save it. The other people in the team seemed to have known about the attitude of the technicians for a long time, but because of the oppression brought by Suyi and the giant Shia group, they didn't have the heart to argue about these things now. Since the other party has already specified what to move, there is naturally nothing to say. Just move it, and it's done. Even if they move it wrong, it's not their turn as a group of mercenaries who are paid for commissions. To be responsible. The group came prepared, and the equipment in this computer room is basically common on Blue Star, and there is nothing special about it. Naturally, they moved it quickly. In just a moment, the group dismantled and packed several mainframes, and also carried out multiple layers of waterproof protection to prevent the important data files from being lost when they ran away in the sea. After sorting it out, the captain looked at the time, and it was just about to reach the 3rd minute. He immediately said to the people behind him, "It's almost time. Get out quickly. Remember to keep quiet. Once you are discovered, remember not to panic, and don't fight. We only need to reach the coast and enter the sea to be completely safe. There are still our submarines waiting for support in the sea. By then, even if SYNOPSIS group has great ability, it will not be possible to find submarines hundreds or even thousands of meters underwater in this vast ocean." At the end, he did not forget to give his men a sip of chicken soup while running away. "Brothers, after this job, the money each of us gets is enough to spend for the rest of our lives. After we go back, we will retire and never do this again. Everyone must be careful and don't turn over at this last minute." Yes, a low response sounded. Excitement flashed in the eyes of a group of mercenaries, because this is a pie in the sky, but it is not completely true. After all, the employer gave too much this time. Even if so many people share it, it will be enough for them to achieve financial freedom. With money, who would dare to do such a dangerous job as a mercenary with their heads tied to their belts? Isn't it fun to enjoy life? And now, this mission has almost been completed by more than half. The factory is less than 2 kilometers away from the nearest beach, and only a little over 3 kilometers away from the weakly guarded beach where they landed. If they hurry on their way, they can reach the beach in 10 minutes at most. By then, the vast sea will be their best barrier, and this matter will really be considered a success. Let's go. The dense footsteps that were so low that they could hardly be detected sounded in the dark factory. There was no sound outside at all. In the gap, where a patrolling security soldier had just passed the factory gate, a group of more than 10 mercenaries and an expert, holding several host computers, ran madly towards the beach. Along the way, they almost always passed by the patrolling soldiers of the SYNOPSIS group security department. It seemed that no one on the island had noticed them until now. After a while, the mercenary captain on the beach breathed a sigh of relief. Looking back, everyone was there, and no one was left behind. He couldn't help but smile. Very good guys, all very energetic, only one step left. Speed up. The group of mercenaries who had not dared to move before in order not to make too much noise immediately ignored the mess and ran wildly. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the beach. Then, without thinking, these people plunged into the sea. A moment later, they all disappeared in the vast sea. The captain's heart was still beating wildly until they went deep into the sea and headed for the location where the submarine had been agreed to pick them up. Thinking carefully about all his experiences in and out, he thought that this was definitely a case that could be written into the textbook. A perfect infiltration, acquisition of the target, and finally retreating unscathed. During the whole process, although he had some unpleasantness with the expert sent by Party A, he almost never made any mistakes. Everyone came all the way strictly according to the established plan. The so-called strict protection forces of SYNOPSIS group were played in their hands. This feeling was simply too exciting. It took him a long time to calm down. Although he just told the team members that he would retire after completing this job, he knew very well that he did this business not only for money, but also for excitement. If you ask him to come again next time for something as exciting as this, he will definitely come again. Chapter 205. So are we really just going to watch them go? In the sky, a powered armor was suspended in the clouds, overlooking a group of people on the beach, who were gradually disappearing into the sea, and joked in the chat channel, would this make them think it's too easy? At the same time, several other voices came from the channel. The captain is right. It's too easy for them to escape like this. I'm afraid they don't cherish it enough if they get it easily. That's right. I just walked past the patrol route wearing an exoskeleton, and I found that the biorada showed that these grandchildren were running out behind me. It was the same when I came in. If I don't give them some color, what will happen? I'm afraid the gangsters really think we are blind. Hurry up and pull them down. What you are wearing this time is the Sentinel-3 heavy-duty exoskeleton. If you really find them and let them run away, it would be completely unreasonable. In comparison, it's better to pretend to be blind. If we really find out, it won't end well if we don't kill them all. What the mercenaries didn't know was that the route they thought was foolproof to infiltrate and escape intact was actually under the surveillance of the soldiers from the security department from beginning to end point. The exoskeleton armor worn by these security department soldiers is equipped with bioradar. The bioradar inside each armor can cover a range of several kilometers around it. Point under this premise, Xianshu specially designed a set of patrol routes around the factory. With the bioradar mounted on these exoskeletons, it can be said that there is no gap in the guards around the entire factory. Point the group of mercenaries thought that they could sneak in without any risk as long as they avoided the front view of these exoskeleton warriors. It was no different than a dream. Point the moment they landed on the island, they were actually noticed by the security department of Xianyu Group. Point it's just that this was originally a fishing plan prepared by Xianshu, so no one paid attention to them. Point what a perfect infiltration route. What loopholes the security department patrolled. It's all nonsense. Point there is simply no loophole for them to exploit in the defense force here. Point even leaving aside the security guards patrolling the perimeter, the entire factory campus is covered with various alarm facilities and automatic defense systems. Among them, the guards on the most precious production lines in the factory area are even more terrifying. Point in addition to modern technological means, some magic arrays on the magic side were also used, which were arranged by Yuling and Xingheng themselves. Even if Penglai Island is bombed by nuclear weapons, these magic arrays and designed physical defenses can be used to ensure that there will be no problems with these precious production lines. I hacked into their voice channel. Haha, they are still having fun now, thinking they really succeeded. Another security team leader wearing power armor joked they are currently diving to find a submarine to pick them up while they are flirting and bragging on the voice channel. Do you think if I say a few words on their channel, will they faint and drown in the sea? Would you like to give it a try? Don't do it. It will ruin the company's plan and we won't get any good results. I know, it's just a joke. The power armor warrior who just spoke said again, hey, there on the submarine, Leo Zhang, it's our turn to work. Coming. As soon as the voice fell, the two power armors in the cloud slowly descended and appeared on the sea point. After looking at each other, they plunged into the sea point. Now, their mission is to follow this submarine and find the other side's home base along the way. When the other side transfers these important technical information to official representative figures of certain countries, they will jump out directly and steal the stolen goods. And one point then there will be a good show to watch. Point seeing the two power armors disappearing directly on the sea, envious voices could not help but come from the several heavy-duty exoskeletons observing the power armor that captains come with as standard is awesome. Who says it's not? It's the trinity of sea, land and air. It's small in size, has strong firepower, high defense, and even has an energy shield. It's not too powerful at all. What? A trinity? This thing can guarantee combat effectiveness even in space. It is said to have a nuclear fusion battery inside, which can be used forever. It can fight for a long time even in the infinite universe. It's so cool. I don't know when we can change to this equipment. Don't think about it. The heavy-duty exoskeleton has a production line in the factory, so it can be equipped with one set for each member of the security department as standard. There is no fixed production line for those power armors. Currently, the number is very small, so only the team leader or above of the security department can. There is one, and it is estimated that this thing cannot be mass produced. If you expect this thing to be distributed to us, you might as well work hard and get a set of power armor through meritorious service. Stop bragging, hurry up and go on patrol. It's time to get off work and go on a trade tour. Have you forgotten what Director Sue said? Don't get involved, understand? I'll go to the cafeteria downstairs at the headquarters for dinner later. The crab roe soup dumplings there are new, and there are the crabs in season, are said to be made from hairy crabs sent from China. Is anyone here? I'll go too. I heard that the quality of crabs is very high. In China, they cost tens or hundreds of yuan. But here, as long as you are an employee, you can eat them as you like. It's really cool. Why else would I be willing to work for our company? This is the treatment. TSK. My son used to clamor for crabs, but I couldn't bear to buy them. This time, he's lucky to be able to eat until he vomits. The treatment in our company is really amazing. The security soldiers on Penglay Island were leisurely discussing what to eat. After get off work point, and the mercenaries who successfully entered the submarine underwater were also very happy at this moment point. Entering the submarine means that they are 100% safe. Next, they just need to submit the mission items and then take the money and leave point. It is also the process they are most familiar with point. As soon as they entered the submarine, the group took off their diving suits and a bunch of equipment and each found a seat to sit down point. The submarine driver said, "Everyone, are you seated? Please fasten your seatbelts. We are about to set off. It will take about 5 hours to reach the destination. You can take a rest during this process." Others naturally had no objection. The submarine, which had stayed in place for a long time, finally moved at this time point, but no one in the submarine noticed that a figure appeared not far from the submarine in the dark deep sea. A laser flashed in the figure's hand, leaving an undetectable mark on the submarine. Chapter 206. Special rays will leave permanent marks on the outer shell of their submarines. Such marks are difficult to detect with the naked eye and must be found with specific instruments. Such instruments are also available on Blue Star, but no one should be so idle to use this thing to scan submarines, so we can use special spectrometers to track the whereabouts of submarines. Any submarine on Blue Star that can never be found after diving into the water, whether it is a nuclear submarine or a conventional submarine, will become a joke. Once targeted, there is no escape, and to do all this, we only need to see the submarine from a distance, and then use the laser equipment on the power armor to leave traces of rays on the submarine. Of course, this is not without any disadvantages. Not only does it have disadvantages, but they are also quite large. That is, this powerful ray itself will carry huge radiation, and the interior of the submarine is mostly a closed space. After it is imprinted on the submarine, the people inside will be corroded by this radiation all the time and will soon suffer from various complications. This radiation is essentially no different from nuclear radiation. Qianshu patiently explained his plan to Suyi, as well as the key method of targeting the other party's submarines and other difficult to detect tools in the plan point. As long as the power armored soldiers of the Xianyu Group Security Department quietly follow these people to see the submarine and brand it, then there will be no secrets about this submarine. Even if they are thousands of miles apart, the special spectrum capture equipment on the power armor can find traces of the submarine point. This is a function that Suyi has never understood before point, but this is normal. The power armor itself has a lot of extremely complex functions. He only wears it occasionally to play, so naturally he doesn't spend too much time studying it point. Although Qianshu knows it, he obviously won't jump out to spoil the fun when his boss is playing with the power armor and say this shouldn't be used like this, it should be played like that, and you are wrong to use it like this. Humans may do this kind of low-egg behavior, but Qianshu obviously won't point anyway. This thing is just a large toy for Suyi point. It doesn't matter whether it can be played well or not point. However, after knowing this function, Suyi has some other ideas. If so, is it possible for us to let the power armor go around the world to find those big black fish lurking on the seabed in the current peacetime, and then mark these big black fish to determine their location, so that once a war breaks out, we can ensure that all the nuclear submarines of these hostile countries cruising in the vast ocean for strategic nuclear counterattacks are sunk as soon as possible? What is the most terrifying thing about submarines? Of course, it is concealment point. If you can't keep an eye on most nuclear submarines, when they leave the port, once they leave the offshore and drill into the deep sea, and then turn on the radio silence and lie on any seabed, they will really be no different from a piece of stone or wood sunk on the seabed point. It is very difficult to find things like sonar. This is also the main reason why nuclear submarines are regarded as standing strategic nuclear counterattack forces by major countries on Blue Star carrying submarine launched intercontinental missiles with a range of tens of thousands of kilometers. Once they drill into the ocean, they are world-destroying warships that can strike any area of the world at any time point. Even if the homeland suffers a devastating blow, it can launch a nuclear counterattack and pull people into the water together among them. The most calling is the concealment of the submarine itself. Don't look at the various anti-submarine technologies in the movies, how awesome they are, and how accurate the sonar system is. In fact, that's all nonsense. This thing has drilled into the depths of the ocean and got rid of the various surface and underwater detection systems deployed in the near sea, and no one can find it at all. The so-called anti-submarine can only be counted in the near sea. It's a bit too funny to want to anti-submarine in the ocean. Whether it can be found depends on luck. Even the current Xianyu group doesn't have a good way to deal with submarines. Otherwise, Suyi wouldn't think about how to deal with nuclear weapons if the opponent only has land-based and air-based nuclear forces. With Xianxu's information collection capabilities, the super performance of landing craft, and orbital strike capabilities, he can completely destroy the opponent's land-based and air-based nuclear forces on the premise that those countries with nuclear weapons cannot even make any decisions. Unfortunately, there are still nuclear submarines in reality, hiding in an unknown sea area, carrying firepower that is not enough to destroy human civilization, but at least enough to destroy countless cities. They can only drag their opponents to self-destruct when an accident occurs. If all these self-destruct ghosts lurking in the dark can be caught, and when they are completely unable to react, these nuclear submarines can be destroyed together with those land-based and air-based nuclear weapons, then everything will be fine. He is equivalent to unloading the guns of the whole world easily. There will be no need to worry about doing things in Blue Star in the future. It is feasible in theory, but it is probably a long time for members to actually operate it, and no one knows whether the nuclear submarines marked and recorded by us are all nuclear submarines. Xianxu explained, this weapon is the most confidential weapon among all countries in Blue Star. For those big countries, this is undoubtedly the last means of counterattack and confidence, and naturally they will not easily leak information. What I found on the public internet, and even by hacking into the internal networks of various countries' military systems, may not be real data. My suggestion is that your plan can be carried out, and a certain amount of power armor can be sent to find and mark these nuclear submarines, but this can only be used as a contingency. Once the situation has deteriorated to the point where it cannot be reversed, we must strike first, then we can use this method to counterattack. At other times, we can only try to record as much as possible and prepare other means of defending against nuclear strikes. Well, what you said makes sense. Suyi nodded. In fact, there is one very important point in his plan. That is, Xianxu must confirm how many nuclear submarines these countries with potential war risks have. The number is the key, and the location is not so important. As long as the number can be determined, let the power armor squat and watch at military ports all over the world. Even nuclear submarines need to return to port for supplies, and sooner or later these submarines can be found. But unfortunately, all countries are very alert to this thing. Even if Xianxu can do anything on the internet, it cannot completely determine how many of these underwater big black fish there are. In this case, marking all submarines can only be used as a backup method. It is best not to use it unless it is absolutely necessary. It is better to use the normal method before and find a way to intercept or defend these nuclear weapons after they are launched. Chapter 207. Just when Suyi was using this special tracking technology to start thinking. People on the other side of the submarine who know nothing about it are also heading towards their destination. There was no deviation in their route, but they headed straight for their destination. In fact, the reason is not difficult to understand. There were no obvious anti-submarine devices deployed around Penglay Island. When they drove the submarine over, they were confident that no one would detect it. Even if the team members who went to the island were targeted, or even tampered with in secret, and some positioning devices were placed on their bodies, or in the items they brought back, the effect would not be very great. The diving suits they wore were all taken off and thrown away when they entered the submarine. Now the only things related to Penglay Island are the few hosts that store important information. These hosts themselves have been checked many times by very professional people, and there are almost no problems in this way. They will naturally be very confident that they will not be followed. What's more, after leaving the sea area where Penglay Island is located, there are still Bald Eagle military aircraft and warships cruising in the sky to ensure that nothing follows them on the sea. To say it is foolproof is an understatement. In the whole plan, they believed that the most dangerous part was going to the island, stealing technical information, and leaving the island. As long as you successfully leave Penglay Island, everything will be settled. Xianyu Group's high-tech exoskeleton, which has caused headaches for countries all over the world that cannot deal with it, will no longer be a threat from now on, but will become everyone's trump card. As for the X76-74 special alloy, military experts from various countries have long believed that the Xianyu Group definitely has a very unparalleled method of making metal materials. Relying on this material, small exoskeletons and power armor can have such powerful defensive capabilities. This material is not only extremely strong and flexible, but also requires extreme lightweighting. Previously, experts from various countries only speculated that Xianyu Group had such a thing, and did not know what this alloy was called. Now that I finally have accurate information, I'm naturally very excited. Many people have even begun to think divergently, thinking about how to make good use of this alloy, which is the pinnacle of materials science in the current era, and how to use it to develop more civilian products to gain profits. Of course, what they didn't know was that the submarine brought back not only technical information, but also 2 Reapers. This is too slow. In the deep sea, in the 2 powered armors following the submarine far behind, a member of the security department complained, "This thing can only hide in the sea and be a turtle. At this speed, if it is discovered, even the body cannot be recovered. It's embarrassing." Another person responded, "This submarine is still a civilian submarine. There is no need to consider various silent issues. In fact, it is quite fast. Military submarines that need to remain silent as soon as they leave the coastal waters, as well as some strategic nuclear submarines, will only be slower than this. But once they hide in the sea, even if they have a deterrent effect, they don't rely on running. Come scare people, that's for sure. Nuclear submarines carrying nuclear weapons to prepare for strategic counterattacks are running so fast to reincarnate. What I mean is that these B submarines are too slow. It is a waste of time to follow them." Okay, in our line of work, where can I find such an easy job? I should have at least a week off after this mission. I plan to go back to China for a few days. What do you say? To be honest, the island is much less fun than in China. My family has all been picked up from the island. Why go back? Let's show off. I'm now a person with a monthly salary of 1 million. Although I can't say what my job content is. If I spend so much money, people may misunderstand that I'm doing something illegal, but it certainly does not affect my showing off. You think so? If you don't return home with wealth, it's like walking in brocade at night. Go, pretend. I have to spend time with my wife and kids. Wait, they have slowed down. Are they about to enter the port? It seems like. Let me take a look at the map. No, the map of this place shows the territory of the Flipper Party in the oil region. If you take a closer look, Jianshu has modified the geographical information here. This was once an overseas garrison base for Bald Eagle in the last century, and it was also a naval base that could dock large ships. Later, this base was forced to move due to regional factors. Cancelled. I didn't expect there to be a cave at the bottom of the sea. Otherwise, submarines are like ghosts. If we didn't follow here, who would have thought that there would be such an entrance under the sea that could connect to a Bald Eagle military base that had been abandoned for decades? The 2 powered armor slowly came to the cave on the seabed, but they were in no hurry to enter. The armor's sensing system told them that the hull was filled with various monitoring equipment, and they would be discovered if they entered rashly. Although the entrance of the hull looks like a completely open hole, a fish-repelling ultrasonic wave is constantly playing inside to prevent any fish from randomly getting in and triggering The alarm system. The surrounding sea area became extremely empty. The two powered armors looked at each other and did not get in rashly. The armor plates on the back of the armor opened one by one like scales, and then a palm-sized drone flew out from the back of the armor like the armor that can be used in all kinds of environments. These drones are also special combat equipment that can adapt to various environments. This includes underwater. Of course, a target as large as a power armor will definitely be discovered by the detection equipment inside if it drills directly into the hole, but a few small drones are difficult to detect. Even if it is discovered, the people inside will probably not take it seriously and will just ignore it as a small fish that has come in from nearby. Although there is an ultrasonic fish repellent device, there will always be some fish that get confused and rush in, which is not surprising. The signal connection is stable, the weapon system is working properly, and the camera system is working properly. Go, little darlings. 2. Power Armors released a total of 8 palm-sized shuttle drones. These drones pretended to be a school of small fish in the sea and rushed into the depths of the cave without caring. Even the most experienced fishermen in this gloomy and deep seabed probably can't tell whether it is a fish or a drone through the screen. Not to mention other people. I'm afraid no one in this world can imagine that drones can do this. Chapter 208. The 8 drones entered the cave with almost no obstacles, and there were no accidents along the way. Even on the way in, they accurately transmitted back information about all the monitoring facilities in the underwater cave passages. Also sent back together were the internal structures of the seabed cave passages that they had gone into survey and map. The power armor's built-in AI immediately models the known area based on this information and analyzes the blind spots and detour options between these monitoring devices. There are places where the power armor can be bypassed without being discovered, and there are places where it has to be destroyed in advance. They are all clearly marked. When these small drones reach the deepest part of the underwater cave, they happen to encounter the submarine floating on the surface. There seems to be a submarine port built inside a hollowed out mountain on the sea surface. Looking up, you can even see traces of excavations on the top of the cave above. The people in the submarine were all crawling outside the submarine. As for outside the submarine, there were already several teams of fully armed soldiers waiting for them. The 2 powered armor soldiers of the Shia group who were observing the melon outside were originally convinced that the bald eagle did this. After all, this place used to be the Bald Eagle's military base. But after seeing the 6-pointed star flag on the uniform of this army, I couldn't help but be surprised. If I read it correctly, this should be the flag of the Kingdom of God, right? Isn't this the base of the Bald Eagle? And when we came all the way with the submarine just now, my radar clearly showed that all the way to the sky there are many Bald Eagle warships and military aircraft cruising nearby to protect this submarine. Now you tell me that the people behind these things are actually people from the Kingdom of God. Don't you understand this? I'm here as a father and son, so I must be wearing a pair of pants. I don't think it's like wearing a pair of pants, but it looks like the dog owner lets the dog do some dirty work for him, and he gets the benefits. That being said, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Stop talking. Look, there's something to eat. Just when the two were shocked by the presence of the Kingdom of God army in this base to receive these technical materials, a very dramatic scene also appeared in the footage captured by the drone. As soon as the group of mercenaries with the mainframe got off the submarine, they were immediately surrounded by a group of the Kingdom of God's troops with live ammunition. The speed was so fast that these mercenaries didn't even have time to grab their guns. Almost as soon as they stepped off the submarine, the muzzles of their rear guns were pressed against their foreheads. What do you mean? The leader of the mercenary was pointed at a gun, but he was not afraid at all, and asked the officer leading the Kingdom of God very angrily, "What do you mean? Can't you see it? Hand over your things quickly." The officer from the Kingdom of God said impatiently. As he said that, 2 soldiers went to snatch the host that was held in the arms of several mercenaries. However, the mercenaries were not willing to hand over the things at all. Although this sudden change made them a little confused, everyone still had a basic sense of crisis when doing such a job of licking blood with the tip of a knife. They knew very well that there were things the other party needed in these hosts. They might still have a chance to survive while holding the hosts in their hands. If they were taken away, they would definitely be dead today. When the soldiers of the kingdom of God saw that they could not snatch it, they raised their guns and wanted to shoot. But those mercenaries weren't stupid either. Although they didn't have guns in their hands, it didn't stop them from quickly picking up the host and blocking it in front of them. When the soldiers of the kingdom of God saw this, their hand on the trigger suddenly lost the courage to pull it. They knew very well how much they valued this thing. If a fire broke out and damaged the hosts containing the data, resulting in the loss of important technical data inside, they would probably have to live with it. The two sides fell into a stalemate for a while. You want to take advantage of others? The boss of the mercenary snorted coldly when he saw this. Having been in this business for so many years, do you really think we won't leave any backup at all? Give me the money and ensure that we can leave here safely. We will return the things to you immediately, and we can promise you that no one of us will reveal a word about today's events. You also know that Shianayu Group's revenge is completely unreasonable. Once Nasuyui knows that we are involved in this matter, we will definitely die. You don't need to worry about us leaking secrets. There is no need to do things like this. Ugly. If you burn bridges after doing your work, who will dare to cooperate with you in the future? I advise you to think clearly. You should know better than me how valuable the technical information here is. Not only ruining your own reputation and losing these information for our little money, it is definitely a lose-lose solution for you. There is really no need for this. The enemy is strong, and we are weak. At this time, this veteran who has been a mercenary for more than 10 years can only follow the guidance of 00. In case the other party's brain gets hot, they will fire directly regardless of whether these hosts will be damaged. He knew very well that compared to killing them, the other party was absolutely unwilling to lose these technical data. The value of the things inside is too high. No matter which country gets it, it will have a chance to rise. It is impossible for these people from the kingdom of God to give up easily. They are now defenseless, and these hosts are their only chance to survive. The leading divine kingdom officer was not moved at all when he heard this and just said calmly, "Don't talk to me about this nonsense. It's useless. I'll give you a chance to hand over your things. I guarantee that you can get out of here alive today. If not, don't blame us for being ruthless." What is the credibility issue of the kingdom of God? What the hell? Their kingdom of God was built by stealing other people's territory, so they still need something like credibility as citizens of the kingdom of God. Military officers who claim to be legitimate descendants of gods don't even bother to listen to such nonsense. In his opinion, as long as the benefits are enough, no matter how ugly what they did this time is, and the news really gets out, no one will ask them to cooperate in the future. People are always greedy. If others are not willing to give, it is obviously not enough. The only reason that restrained him from firing directly now was the important technical information in the host. It seems you have no sincerity. The mercenary boss sneered. Do you really think that I will trust you to complete the transaction honestly and not leave anything behind? I'm not afraid to tell you that your people from the kingdom of God have contacted and cooperated with us, including the content of the cooperation. We have kept backups of everything and sent them to other companions. His location, no matter how perfect your intelligence network is, it's impossible to find him. As long as I haven't gone out to report that I'm safe after 3 hours, he will announce all these things. Chapter 209. By then, your kingdom of God will not only be cheating, losing credibility and being disliked by all walks of life, but Shianayu Group, which has important information stolen, will not let you go. The mercenary boss said solemnly, I advise you to think clearly. Haha, you want to scare me with Shianayu Group? The divine kingdom officer sneered. We are the people of the true God. We are blessed by the gods. If we are really afraid of the Shianayu Group, we will not let you losers get their technical information. Correction. The mercenary boss hummed. Instead of asking us to take it, we are asking us to steal it. If we are thieves, then you are the one who instructs the thieves to steal valuable things from home, but in the end it is the one who gets the backlash. If you are really not afraid of Shianayu Group, then why don't you bring your big bald eagle and push Penglay Island to others? Shianayu Group has more than these two black technologies in its hands. Once it can attack, it's not difficult to get the bald eagle, which is already in debt and seriously ill, back to its peak. Why don't you just fight it? Why don't you pretend to be a big-tailed wolf with me now? If you have the guts, go and talk to Suyi, the chairman of Shia Group, and see if he will crush you to death on the spot, you forced child. Seeing that he had already broken up with each other, he naturally didn't want to save any face for the other party. It's a direct personal attack with explosive power. The officers of the Kingdom of God are indeed red and warm. The white skin is almost turning red into purple skin. Hearing this, he pulled out his gun and prepared to shoot the mercenary who spoke so freely. However, this group of mercenaries gathered together now. Seeing this, the mercenary boss quickly retreated and hid in the crowd, while two of the mercenaries holding the console quickly lifted the console and stood at the front. Apparently he was using this thing as a shield. The results were quite good. When the officers and soldiers from the Kingdom of God saw this thing, they immediately stopped and did not dare to make the slightest move. The two sides were in an awkward position here for a while, which made the Shia Group power armor soldiers who were eating melon outside look worried. No, bro, aren't you stupid? Why the hell can't you wait for others to hand over important things first and then break up with each other? I really can't stand it anymore. Let's mint it. It's okay now. I'm so embarrassed here. I don't dare to shoot, and I don't dare to put down the main unit. It's somewhat unnatural. No wonder the brain circuits of these people from the Kingdom of God are so weird. They obviously robbed other people's homes and acted as if they were still victims. It turns out there is something wrong with their brains. These people are just in need of help. The two of them had quietly gotten in through various information ascertained by the drone and were now underwater. Even if they turned on the external radio device of the power armor, they could hear what was being said on the bottom of the sea. And with the drones lurking on the water and in the sky, they were just like watching a movie. While reading, I would like to make a few comments from time to time. Fortunately, this outrageous scene that left everyone watching unable to hold their nerves did not last long. Soon another middle-aged white man in a suit and tie, who looked quite elegant, walked into this secret submarine port. As soon as he came in, this guy smiled and said, "Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Guys, these are my subordinates. I didn't expect that your mission went so smoothly and you came back so soon, so I didn't explain many things to them. My problem. As he said, this person then he walked up to the mercenary boss and shook hands cordially. Our Kingdom of God has always been very disciplined in its dealings with people. How can we do such a shady thing? Look, the submarine is right next to it. This is a civilian submarine, and it's just for you. The money is ready, and someone will send it over soon. According to your request, you won't need to go through the bank to transfer money. You can use it directly. Cash settlement. You will get the money later and then enter the submarine. Then give us the main unit. This way we get what we want and you can leave calmly after entering the submarine. Everyone is fine." This was said to be true. If these people from the Kingdom of God had this attitude when they came in just now, then the mercenary leader would definitely agree without thinking too much. But it's different now. After being threatened, he no longer trusted these gangsters who claimed to be descendants of gods. Hearing this, he shook his head and said without thinking, "We don't need a submarine, and we don't need any aircraft prepared by you. We have a dozen brothers here and prepare 2 armored personnel carriers for us. Then we have to conduct inspections. If there are no problems, we will take these hosts on board. Then after driving 100 kilometers from this base, when we arrive at the junction of the Slipper Army's sphere of influence, we will put these hosts in the desert, and you can come and get them. This is my request. Compared to such a submarine, just 2 cars will obviously save you a lot of money. Don't bargain with me anymore. I will not accept any counter offers. My patience is limited. I also know that you want to kill people to silence them because you are afraid of being discovered and liquidated by the Shia group. I don't want to get involved with you. If you can agree, agree. If you can't agree, we will smash these hosts with important information now. Later, my people outside will publish all the details of this operation on the internet, including the video of us entering the Shia group factory to steal information. I have passed all of it to my people when I left the island. Believe me. Once it comes to the worst situation, not only will you not get these technical information, but you will also face crazy revenge from the Shia group. Do you think the Shia group will be afraid of you with the nuclear weapons of your kingdom of God? When the overwhelming power armor and exoskeleton kill you, it will be too late to regret. Just kidding. He is not a fool. Point knowing that the other party wants to kill him, he naturally dare not take a submarine, a vehicle that is almost certain to die once it is hit. Point not to mention that he has just seen all the way here, and he knows very well how narrow and cramped the path for submarines to enter here is, and how easy it is to set an ambush point. If you really agree to this condition and get on the submarine, you may not even be able to leave this base and die in the channel connecting to the sea. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210. Should we just rush out now? Should we? Right. Underwater. Two soldiers in power armor were enjoying themselves. Just when they saw the situation was deadlocked and were hesitating whether to rush out now, Jianshu's information was sent to the system built into the power armor at this time. Hey, there's news. This white old man is a senior official of the Kingdom of God. Good guy, isn't that settled? We filmed the whole process. If we rush in now, we'll catch him red-handed. The information was confirmed, and the two were just about to take action. And at this moment, something unexpected happened in the deadlocked secret submarine port. In the tense confrontation, a soldier of the Kingdom of God seemed to have received some order, and the gun that had been pointed at the mercenaries suddenly opened fire without warning. And the shooting was extremely accurate, and one shot hit the mercenary standing in the middle holding a host in the middle of the eyebrows. A bullet pierced the skull, and huge kinetic energy was released in the human brain. The back of the mercenary's head exploded directly, and he lost all consciousness in an instant. At the same time, almost at the same time, gunshots were heard from several other secret directions of the underground base. All of them were large caliber sniper rifles. Almost at the same time, the mercenaries holding the mainframes all fell to the ground dead. Seeing that the situation was not good, some other mercenaries wanted to pick up the mainframes to make these crazy people from the Kingdom of God afraid to act rashly, while others reacted and jumped to the dock connected to the sea at the side, hoping to escape in this almost impossible way. This sudden change was not expected by these mercenaries, not to mention the two brothers wearing power armor as spectators underwater. Just as the soldiers of the Kingdom of God opened fire, they also flew up from under the water. The huge splash of water formed a sharp contrast with the gunshots. The sudden appearance of two power armors with the logo of Shia group made the originally chaotic scene quiet again. The mercenaries who survived even forgot to run for their lives. They stared blankly at the two power armors that suddenly appeared, and they were completely confused. Not to mention the soldiers of the Kingdom of God. They didn't even fully execute the order to kill and silence all the mercenaries. They were stunned by the two power armors that suddenly appeared. There are masters. The brothers are playing thieves here. Why did the victim of Shia group suddenly appear? If Shia group was just an ordinary victim, it would be fine. But for these mercenaries, these soldiers of the Kingdom of God, and even the so-called Kingdom of God behind them. Shia group is an existence they can't afford to offend. Before they had time to kill and silence, the real owner had already come to the door. The two soldiers didn't expect that the scene that looked quite normal a second ago would suddenly start killing and robbing. After a moment of hesitation, one of them turned on the external loudspeaker and said, "Okay, I don't care what you are doing, and I don't want to care where this place is. Now, I declare that this place has been taken over by Shia group. Everyone put down your weapons and cooperate with our investigation." The senior official of the Kingdom of God only reacted at this moment, and his face suddenly showed a bad look. He knew very well what would happen if he was caught here with his status and position. He immediately shouted, "Fire! Fire! Take down these two iron lumps for me." While saying this, he was still rolling and crawling back, trying to escape from the base. As a senior official of the Kingdom of God, He was more or less perceptive, and the channels for obtaining information were far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Point for the power armor of Shia Group. Ordinary soldiers may only think it is very handsome and powerful, but he knows very well what kind of monster it is, let alone the soldiers who are only armed with light weapons. Even if the regular heavy armored army of the Kingdom of God is brought here, it is probably difficult to do anything to these power armors on the Great Plains where the heavy armored army is most suitable for performance. And there is a high probability that they will be turned upside down. It is completely impossible to expect these soldiers to defeat this iron lump that has already belonged to the category of science fiction with their flesh and blood. We can only hope that these soldiers of the Kingdom of God can hold the two power armors in the base and buy him time to escape from here. Otherwise, if he is caught, it will be a big deal. After all, with his identity, he is enough to represent the Kingdom of God outside. Shia Group can completely put all the blame on the Kingdom of God for this bad incident after catching him. At that time, let alone their tiny country, even their boss Bald Eagle may not dare to stand up and say anything to Shia Group. Of course, he also knows very well that even if he gets on the plane may not fly as fast as these power armors. Since these power armors can appear here, then the result left for him is actually doomed. Either commit suicide to silence yourself, or surrender. But before the final moment, who would be willing to commit suicide or surrender? You have to struggle after all. As for whether you will be run over when you are halfway through escaping, whether it is suicide or arrest, we will talk about it at that time. Of course, ideals are full, but reality is really skinny and terrible. The actual situation was that he had thought of a lot of things, but he couldn't even get out of the submarine. Port dug underground. Almost at the moment when he ordered to shoot, the soldiers of the Kingdom of God had not reacted yet, and the soldiers in the two power armors took the lead in responding. Not only did the criminals not surrender, but they also dared to fight back against me. Apply to shoot them, capture the high-ranking officials of the Kingdom of God alive, and the rest of them are allowed to shoot. Looking at the order authorization popped up on the mask, the two no longer had any concerns driven by the terrifying power. They instantly smashed directly to the ground at a speed that was difficult to see with the naked eye. The group of soldiers of the Kingdom of God couldn't even fire their guns, and the shockwave of this simple smash instantly disrupted their formation. The next step was a one-sided battle without suspense. At this distance, ordinary soldiers had almost no chance of fighting against these super soldiers wearing power armor. Dozens of people were all shot dead in less than a minute point. Not even one of them surrendered. Of course, it is also possible that they wanted to surrender, but they had no time to speak or make any moves. Even those snipers who were hiding in a hidden position far away could not escape the biometric recognition of the power armor. They didn't even fire a shot when they saw that the situation was not right and were about to pack up and run away. They were shot in the head by the electromagnetic kinetic energy bullet fired from a distance by the power armor. Chapter 211. Leo Deng. Where are you running? The high-ranking official of the Kingdom of God had not even reached the stairs dozens of meters away when he was picked up like a chicken by the power armor. Although he did have weapons on him, he was still reluctant to commit suicide in the end. Just kidding. Unlike those soldiers who were brainwashed by messy beliefs and the like, he was a high-ranking official, and one of the culprits who manipulated these people and played with their hearts. Naturally, he cherished his life very much, and did not have the courage to fight to the death. As for the remaining mercenaries, they were completely stunned. When the boss of the mercenary saw that the soldiers of the Kingdom of God, who were so majestic a minute ago, were all annihilated by these two powered armors in less than a minute, he felt dizzy in his head, and then he seemed to understand something. The other shoulder was shot, but the mercenary managed to save his life, dragging his injured body over and saying, "Boss, what should we do now? How about taking the opportunity to pick up those hosts and threaten the people of the Shia group? They should also pay great attention to the information in this. We can use it as a weapon to avoid rats. Moreover, these people from the Shia group came from behind like us, and there is no way there is any sniper hidden in this cave. If we use our hands to shoot black guns, these hosts should still be a bit of a deterrent." "Ah, you stupid." The mercenary boss slapped him on the head and said angrily, "These technologies belong to others, so what's the use of threatening them with this? Because It's important. Wouldn't it be a huge loss for them if it was lost? The mercenary said stupidly, Sitcha, technology is definitely important, but people are chasing them just because they don't want the technology to be leaked. It's not like they have lost this technology by losing this data. Do you think they won't have a backup for such an important thing? Take it. It's just stupid to threaten people. As he said that, the mercenary boss looked at the scene where the two powered armors killed all the soldiers of the Kingdom of God without hesitation, but captured the high-ranking officials of the Kingdom of God alive. He couldn't help but sigh, and this matter is probably more complicated than we imagined. Even the so-called technical information in the hosts that we desperately stole may not be the real technical information. He looked at the hosts containing technical information scattered on the ground with complicated eyes, shook his head and said, we shouldn't have taken this mission. I was blinded by the huge bounty and harmed everyone. Why do you say that? Don't you realize that all this is a coincidence? People from the Shia group were able to find this place, but they didn't come early or late. But as soon as the senior officials of the Kingdom of God appeared, they also appeared. Do you really think it is a coincidence? The mercenary boss laughed miserably. We are just pawns. If the high-ranking officials of the Kingdom of God don't show up, even if those soldiers kill us or the mercenaries, the people from the Shia group probably won't show up, because if they come out at this time, even if they record the entire process and capture us mercenaries and those soldiers alive, it will actually be impossible to prove that this is the intention of the higher-ups of the Kingdom of God. When the incident happens, the higher-ups of the Kingdom of God can completely he denies that he doesn't know about these things at all, and it's just his subordinates who are messing around and pushing out a few scapegoats. Even if this matter is over, Shia group will not be able to use it again. But it's different now. I caught a senior official of the Kingdom of God on the spot. After taking this person back, even if everyone in the Kingdom of God had 8 mouths, they still had no idea about the theft of important technical information of the Shia group. You have to take the blame. It's not clear. You can't say that a senior official of this level cannot represent the top leaders of the Kingdom of God, but can only represent him personally. So, Shia group wants to use this incident to deal with the Kingdom of God. They are just a company. Why do they have such courage? The younger brother asked in surprise. It's not that I'm using the question as an excuse, but there is a high probability that the question itself was asked by the Shia group itself. The boss of the mercenary said with a wry smile, from the information given by the spies within the Shia group to us entering Penglay Island to steal this information, don't you think all of this is a bit too smooth? I didn't notice it before, I just thought it was an arrangement by the Kingdom of God. The spies are indeed capable, and they have really found out the detailed patrol routes and patterns of the Shia group's security department, as well as the huge loopholes in the Shia group's security work on Penglay Island. But looking at it now, it's obviously not so simple to explain that these powered armors came to the door so quickly. There is a high probability that this was all directed and performed by the Shia group after learning about the ambitions of the Kingdom of God. Even the technical information is probably fake. Those bullshit experts sent by the Kingdom of God were completely manipulated. In the meantime, it didn't even look like it was fake. All of this was probably a script set by Shia group in advance, whether it's us mercenaries who risk their lives for money or the Kingdom of God who is highly bound to the world's #1 bald eagle. They are actually just the villains in this script, who don't know whether to live or die and are manipulated by others. He looked sad and fell into silence. After speaking point as mercenaries, it is obvious that they are not law-abiding people point otherwise. I wouldn't be doing this job point for this mercenary boss, even if he was killed on the spot by the Divine Gang just now. I'm afraid it would not be as uncomfortable as it is now. Why do they want to deal with the Kingdom of God? A company sets a trap for a country. Even if the other party gets into the trap, what will happen? The younger brother still didn't understand. Only God knows. The mercenary boss smiled bitterly, then shrugged and said, but for now, if the Kingdom of God disappears, Bald Eagle's oil knife music system, I'm afraid there will be big problems. People in the oil areas have been squeezed by the kingdom of God and the bald eagle for a long time, and soon there will be, if there is a big mess. I guess they are not just targeting this divine kingdom, but the real target is the bald eagle behind the divine kingdom. So, we doomed now? No, as important witnesses, we may not necessarily die. Of course, we have no say now, whether we will die or live. We don't have to think about struggling. If we cooperate honestly, we may still have a way to survive. If you still want to struggle, I'm afraid it's a dead end. This thing can not only dive, but also go up to the sky. It's impossible for us to escape on two legs. Otherwise, I still like to deal with smart people. At this time, the two power armor soldiers who had successfully arrested the senior officials of the kingdom of God also came back. The leading soldier slowly walked to the surviving mercenaries, waved his hand and said, "Now that you have ideological consciousness, you can drive a submarine to Penglay Island and surrender yourself. If I don't see you on Penglay Island in a few hours, then believe me, although this world is big, there is definitely nowhere for you to hide." Chapter 212. After that, the two power armors went straight out along the stairs of the base point on the surface. This is the abandoned base of the Bald Eagle, but in fact, it has long been a secret overseas military base of the Kingdom of God. Of course, there are more than just a few dozen soldiers on the way out. The two power armors encountered a large number of fully armed Kingdom of God troops coming to support. There is no nonsense to say. In this narrow underground environment, almost no weapons that Blue Star can use can threaten the power armor. One of them started killing directly, and the other protected the high-ranking official of the Kingdom of God from dying. Soon they fought all the way from the bottom to the surface point. Because the surface is an abandoned base, there is no one on the surface at this time. However, the things in the base have obviously been spread. As soon as the two of them came to the surface with power armor, several fighters flew over in the sky. Looking at the logos painted on the fighters, they were all Bald Eagle military aircraft. Obviously, they were all from the nearby Bald Eagle base who received the news and rushed to support quickly. Almost as soon as they reached the surface, they heard someone shouting on the nearby public channel, "You two, put down the people from the Kingdom of God. You can leave directly, otherwise we will open fire." It was a direct threat without any disguise. The two of them were driving power armor. Of course they would not be fooled by this, and it would be difficult for these fighters to break their defense. But it was not easy to save his life with an ordinary person who had no protection. Of course, if they did not go on the surface and went directly to the submarine and went under the sea, the risk would be even greater after all. On the ground, if they encountered any special situation, they could still find a way to protect this guy from death. But if they were underwater, if they were attacked in the narrow submarine channel, they would be fine, but the people in the submarine would definitely die. What should we do with the Bald Eagle's planes? If we don't take the initiative to shoot them down, I'm afraid things will be difficult to deal with. Once these planes open fire, it will be difficult to protect this guy from death. Wait, the headquarters has received information. Oh, it seems that we don't need to take action. The two soldiers were still hesitating whether to take the initiative, but at this moment, the news from the Shianayu group headquarters had been conveyed. After seeing the news, the two of them relaxed immediately. They were not in a hurry to leave, nor did they intend to fight back. They just stood there, as if waiting for something. After the Bald Eagle's Air Force finished shouting on the public channel, seeing that there was no response from this side, they continued, "Gentlemen, you have 1 minute to make a decision. If you don't want to go to war, I advise you, don't. Take a minute. You should first consider whether you can survive until then." One of the power-armored soldiers interrupted impatiently. The Bald Eagle pilot in the air was stunned and was about to say something else, but at this moment, he suddenly felt that his cockpit had darkened inexplicably. He subconsciously raised his head and saw a huge monster appearing above his fighter plane. An electromagnetic cannon thicker than his head had been charged, and the muzzle with electric light pointed directly at his head. Wait, boom, bang. Bang, 3 gunshots, almost without any signs. 3 Bald Eagle military planes hovering in the air were instantly shot down by the landing craft that came. It can't even be considered a shoot down. There must be something to land on. The 3 fighter planes were smashed into pieces in the air, and there was nothing left. When they landed. The air was quiet in an instant, and the landing craft slowly hovered 30 or 40 meters above the ground and opened the hatch. 2 power armors took the high-ranking official of the Kingdom of God into the boat calmly. Just a few fighters. 2 soldiers in power armor can easily shoot them down, but their problem is that they are too slow to move with a burden. Now that these planes have been shot down, I'm afraid there will be more fighters flying over to stop them from taking away the high-ranking official of the Kingdom of God. Next time, they may not give us a heads up, but will directly attack from a distance. It will be difficult to save an ordinary person without armor protection at that time. But with the landing craft, there is naturally no worry in this regard. After these fighters are shot down, they can send the people to the landing craft and return to Penglay Island in just a few minutes. There is no need to worry about the subsequent troubles. Even if there are more fighters approaching in the air, it is almost impossible to do anything to the high-ranking official of the Kingdom of God who is taken to the landing craft. It is impossible to kill and silence him. Breaking news. Just yesterday evening in Jiaozhou time, at 9 o'clock last night in the Penglay Island area time, a group of terrorists took advantage of the opportunity of Xianyu Group's Penglay Island being open to the public for the first time after its completion, and sneaked into the island. Not only did they attempt to attack and assassinate Xianyu Group chairman Su Yi himself, they also sneaked into the Xianyu Group's database and stole many technical data of Xianyu Group on exoskeleton manufacturing technology, carbon-based crystal technology, metal hydrogen battery technology, nuclear fusion technology, space elevator technology, spacecraft technology, etc. Currently, the assassin who attacked the chairman of Xianyu Group has been arrested alive on the spot and is being interrogated. Some of the people who stole the technology have fled. The personnel dispatched by the security department of Xianyu Group only found exoskeletons and other 2 technologies during the pursuit. Information and several other technical information that have been released by Xianyu Group but have not been released yet. All clues have been lost, and the search for direction is completely lost. It is worth mentioning that during the pursuit, the security personnel of Xianyu Group not only caught some mercenaries who sneaked into Penglay Island to steal confidential technology, but also happened to discover the financial backer behind the mercenaries, a man from the oil industry. Senior officials of the regional Kingdom of God. It is reported that this person is one of the masterminds behind the terrorist attack and technology plagiarism against Xianyu Group. Not only did Xianyu Group capture him alive, but soldiers from the Ministry of Security also filmed the entire process of their transactions, including there are even videos of the Kingdom of God trying to silence and kill those mercenaries. After acquiring the technology, the following is a question issued by Mr. Su Yi, chairman of Xianyu Group, on the public media not long ago. A senior official of the Kingdom of God is one of the masterminds behind such a terrorist attack. The information revealed is thought-provoking. I think a senior official of this level should be able to represent the will of a country. Can the Kingdom of God give an explanation to Xianyu Group? Early the next morning, Jiaozhou's most comprehensive news reported the incident and even explained the whole process in detail. There are also some clips of live video content. Except for them, all reporters and media around the world pounced on this breaking news like sharks smelling the smell of blood. Chapter 213. Shocked, the Kingdom of God sent someone to assassinate the boss of the company. What is the reason behind this? A shocking case. The Kingdom of God in the oil region tried to snatch the technical information of Xianyu Group and assassinate the boss of Xianyu Group himself. Reversal. According to the latest news and information released by Xianyu Group, the assassin who assassinated Xianyu Group boss Su Yi and the mercenaries who stole Xianyu Group's technology are not in the same group. The assassin was sent by Jiao Benji, and the Kingdom of God jointly planned to target Xianyu Group. What is the purpose behind this? If we think about it carefully, it is not difficult to find that these 2 countries are actually deeply bound to the bald eagle. Is their behavior related to the bald eagle, or is it the bald eagle itself? The world's most powerful country is behind this. A 10,000 word explanation of the game between the parties in the Penglay Island Open Day incident is absolutely exciting, and you won't lose money if you don't watch it. From the Penglay Island Open Day incident, it is not difficult to see that Western countries reject and suppress the development of science and technology outside their camp. After normal means lose their effectiveness, they will tear off their hypocritical veil and use despicable tricks including, but not limited to burning, killing, looting, stealing, and deceiving to achieve their goals. I think this is the Shia group that has tread a mine for our years how, allowing us to see the nature of these Western countries. We should also be inspired by it and take precautions early. In just 1 or 2 days, the phishing reels on the internet exploded completely. And the news has changed from suspicion and suspected at the beginning to being completely confirmed. Because the Shia group has been constantly releasing various materials and evidence, including video footage of the interrogation of the high-ranking official of the Kingdom of God. The fact that the Kingdom of God sent mercenaries to sneak into Penglay Island to steal important technical information is ironclad evidence, and there is almost no room for rebuttal. Even the high-level officials of the Kingdom of God did not make any unnecessary excuses and remained silent until now. They were probably discussing the response in private. The bald eagle also remained silent. Surprisingly, the media affiliated with the West were originally suppressed and not allowed to report these things, but it was useless for them not to report them. The news about this incident on the Western internet was spread like crazy, and everyone could see it. This was naturally the work of Shianshu. The Kingdom of God sent people to rob, and the matter of the Foot Basin Chicken sending people to assassinate Suyi was confirmed. Although the Shia group only announced the transaction records between the assassin and Ichiro Matsushima, part of the confession of these two people, and the identity and background of Ichiro Matsushima, even the official group did not take the initiative to say that this person was sent by the Foot Basin Chicken, and all the rumors pointing to the Foot Basin Chicken were gossip. But in the eyes of many people, the fact that the Foot Basin Chicken sent people to assassinate Suyi was also confirmed. This is the chain reaction. After all, the questioning of the Kingdom of God initiated by the official Shia group before was conclusive evidence. This shows that they are rigorous in their work and will not say anything to slander others before there is solid evidence. The Shia group officials did not take the initiative to trouble Jaya Benji. In the eyes of the public, it may be that they feel that the evidence they have is not enough. Even if Jaya Benji is mentioned, he can still quibble, so they simply do not mention it for the time being. This proves again that Shia group is rigorous and particular in its work. But Shia group is particular, but netizens do not need to be so particular. For them, the information released by Shia group about the assassin and the assassin behind the assassin, Ichiro Matsushima, is enough to prove that Jaya Benji did it. Even if you put aside the right and wrong, the pure passers-by who really think rationally. Suyi himself has a huge fan group. After all, Shia group is a representative of conscientious enterprises in China. Not only does it provide employees with terrible benefits, but many of the things it sells are not so cheap, but they are definitely worth the money. There are countless individuals and families saved by the water of life alone. In addition, his own appearance is beyond the vast majority of young stars, so naturally he has a large number of fans. For these fans, someone actually wants to assassinate their favorite star, or even their benefactor. How the hell is this? In less than a day, the angry Jia's how netizens and Suyi's fan group crashed the server of the portal website of Jaya Benji. Jaya Benji also had a hard time. They tried to stand up and say that it was not them who did it. But no one listened. Even those relatively rational people, after hearing their denial, asked them to produce evidence to clear themselves of the relationship. After all the evidence released by Shia group pointed to Jaya Benji, but you didn't show any evidence and just said that it was not me who did it. Except for those spiritual Jaya Benji people, also known as the second devils, who would believe your lies. Even their own people don't believe it, let alone outsiders. When it comes to evidence, Jaya Benji can only play dead. As a country and an economic powerhouse, Foot Basin Chicken can certainly produce evidence to prove that Matsushima Ichiro hired assassins to assassinate Suyi, and they had nothing to do with it. Because the flow of funds behind this matter is actually quite clear. The Bald Eagle gang didn't even act to make money, and it would not be difficult for a force with a little bit of power To trace the source of this money point, Footbasin Chicken can find out everything with a simple investigation point. But what if they find out? Can they throw the evidence on the internet and tell everyone, look, I didn't do this, it was my father, the bald eagle? If you really dare to clarify like this, I'm afraid the person who makes this decision tomorrow will have a brain hole or open his heart. What else can you do? You can only take the blame for the bald eagle father with tears. After being attacked for a few days, the Footbasin Chicken simply didn't bother to be tough and just lied down and admitted the ridicule on the internet. Even most people in the Footbasin Chicken country have already believed that this matter was done by their top management. However, the matter is obviously far from over. On the contrary, this is just the beginning point. On the third day after the incident, the Shia Group headquarters once again issued an open inquiry to the oil region Divine Kingdom, asking them to return the nuclear fusion, space elevator, spacecraft, carbon-based crystal and other technologies that have not been found by the Shia Group. The oil region Divine Kingdom did not respond. At the regular press conference of the diplomatic department, when the reporter from Kyushu raised this question again, not only did he not get a response, but after the meeting, the reporter was imprisoned by the Divine Kingdom on the grounds of stealing the secrets of the Divine Kingdom. On the fifth day of the incident, 10 powered armored soldiers from the Shia Group security department and 1,000 soldiers wearing Sentinel-3 heavy exoskeletons boarded the landing craft Mayfly and appeared at dawn on the outskirts of the capital of the Kingdom of God. Chapter 214. The armed forces of Shia Group appeared directly in the suburbs of the capital of the Kingdom of God without any warning. This is undoubtedly more important and more shocking than the previous theft of Shia Group's technical data and the assassination of Suyi himself. Although things have developed to this point, Shia Group obviously has no intention of opening fire without declaring war after the Kingdom of God discovered this landing craft and more than 1,000 exoskeleton warriors and power armor warriors. They have dispersed and controlled the main traffic routes in and out of the capital of the Kingdom of God, including but not limited to roads, railways, etc. Even the external airport was controlled by Shia Group at the first time. All this happened almost within half an hour of the landing craft appearing around the capital of the Kingdom of God. And even most of the soldiers involved in the operation did not know where their destination was. Just follow the tasks assigned to each person by the combat system and do your own things, and you can easily take control of the entire capital of the Kingdom of God. Of course, it is definitely not appropriate to say that this is an occupation point, but with all entrances and exits blocked, Suyi now has no problem turning the capital of the Kingdom of God upside down as long as he wants. After completing all this, Suyi, as the chairman of Shia Group, directly posted the situation of the capital of the Kingdom of God on social media, including which places in the entire capital have been controlled by Shia Group, which places have not been controlled, how many soldiers of the Kingdom of God have been disarmed, etc. Very detailed. Anyone who knows a little bit will find a horrifying fact if he takes a closer look. That is, Shia Group has actually gained control of most of the city. If there is no external interference, the Kingdom of God alone will probably not be able to take it back. The Kingdom of God is called the Kingdom of God, but in essence it is just a country composed of a group of religious believers. They borrow chickens to lay eggs, and this so-called home originally belongs to others. If the strength of the Kingdom of God itself is discussed, it is obviously far less than its reputation. If this nation is really as powerful and intelligent as they boast, they would not have wandered like a stray dog for thousands of years, and in modern times they would bite back at the benefactors who took them in and rob others of their land, and say that it was left to them by the gods. Fighting with these weaklings in the oil region, they can still fight with the support of the big bald eagle. If they really encounter a tough opponent, they can't deal with it with their strength. And now, Shia Group is undoubtedly this tough opponent. From the appearance of the landing craft in the capital of the Kingdom of God to the completion of the peripheral control of the capital of the Kingdom of God, the whole process took less than an hour. This is no different from a dimensionality reduction attack. The so-called Iron Dome defense system, which the Kingdom of God is proud of, and was once praised by some military blind public intellectuals in Kyushu, can only defend against the gas tank rockets made by the desert folks. It is something that the serious army can't defend against with a few rocket launchers and a few rounds of salvos. Naturally, it can't pose any threat to the landing craft and those armored soldiers. After sending these messages, Suyi also added a few words. It is a pity that things have developed to this point. When the database was stolen, and a large number of extremely valuable confidential documents were stolen, and we have determined that the thieves are related to the Kingdom of God, our Shianayu group has made every effort to communicate with the Kingdom of God, but unfortunately, these efforts have been in vain. The Kingdom of God has never responded to our doubts about this bad incident from beginning to end, and has never explained the high involvement of its officials in this incident. After many unsuccessful communications, our company commissioned JIU the relevant state media reporters asked on behalf of the reporter at the routine press conference of the Kingdom of God, but the result was not only that they did not get the truth, but the reporter was illegally detained by the Kingdom of God personnel and suffered abuse. In desperation, we can only make this difficult decision. Once the war begins, there is no possibility of turning around. Our Shianayu group has only 3 demands. First, return the technical data of the Shianayu group stolen by the private military forces directed by the Kingdom of God, and do not keep all backups. Second, release the detained reporter, and the Kingdom of God needs to bear all the medical and compensation expenses of the reporter. The cost, and the official of the Kingdom of God needs to formally apologize to it. Third, the Kingdom of God will stop all external territorial aggression, return the occupied territories to the original owners, and disarm all armed forces. Of course, our Shianayu group is not unsympathetic. If the Kingdom of God believes that disarming the armed forces will lead to danger, our Shianayu group can also provide national security services to ensure that there will be no safety problems after you follow our requirements. The current situation in the capital of the Kingdom of God will last for 3 days. During these 3 days, the Shianayu group will not take the next step. This period of time should be enough for you to think clearly about many things. Of course, you can also mobilize troops or seek external assistance during this period to test the capabilities of our Shianayu security department. On behalf of Shianayu, I welcome it. And after 3 days, if I still don't get a satisfactory answer, the elite soldiers of our security department will cut off the power and water supply of your capital and go into the city to ask you for an explanation in person. Of course, you can also run, but my patience is limited. After 5 days, if I still don't get a satisfactory answer, then, in order to defend the interests of the company, I promise to make all carbon-based life in this area disappear. Those who escape here, even if they flee to the ends of the earth, will never escape the eyes of Shianayu. That's it. Whether you believe it or not, that's your own business. There is a saying in Kyushu that, since the donor does not understand Mahayana Buddhism, then we happen to know some boxing and kicking skills here. You chose to ignore the peaceful solution, so now this is Shianayu's response to your offensive behavior. 1. Stone stirred up 1,000 waves. The previous battle reports on Shianayu Group's control of the city could only be said to demonstrate Shianayu Group's capabilities, so what Suyi said next was undoubtedly a bit shocking point. Since the World War, although there have been many large-scale massacres, there has never been a situation like Suyi's, where a siege and massacre was clearly regarded as a threat and published on a public platform around the world. Point in particular. The 3 conditions he proposed were more stringent than the last point, but what many people didn't expect was that such a wild declaration about massacre of the city would elicit an unusually good response. Chapter 215. Damn it. Damn it. It's on fire. This is the price of offending the heaven realm. Damn domineering. Isn't this a bit too much? No matter what, those ordinary people are innocent, right? Haha. The Kingdom of God sent people to steal a series of brief technical materials of the Shianayu group, such as nuclear fusion, space elevators, exoskeleton armor, carbon-based crystals, etc. Do you know how valuable these things are? Let me put it bluntly. From the perspective of human civilization, it is worth it for half of the people on Blue Star to die for these technologies. Of course, what I mean is not to say that it is worth killing billions of people in order to obtain this technology, but to say that the value of these technologies is not something that the kingdom of God with a few million people is qualified to touch. If they touch and do not change it, they will naturally bear the corresponding anger. Compared with the huge losses of the Shia group, even if the kingdom of God is massacred and exterminated, it can't make up for it. That is to say, Mr. Su is straightforward. He said this to you in front of the whole world before the work has been done. Unlike the bald eagle, who talks more beautifully than anyone else, and talks about freedom and democracy. In fact, in the oil region alone, the number of people killed directly or indirectly by them is more than millions. I thought that Shia group was playing misery to find a reason for its actions, but after reading the second half, I realized that I was still young. Mr. Su didn't even bother to do this, and just stated the course of events. It's too stupid to keep pretending to be dead and not respond. If it weren't for Shia group, other companies would have no recourse if they encountered such a national level organization forcibly stealing and robbing technology, and could only accept it with a pinch of the nose. Am I the only one who thinks that the existence of this Shia group has seriously threatened human safety? He starts wars at every turn. I think Su Yi is a war madman. We should unite the righteous forces of the world and bring such people to justice. Dashishan, only you think so. You are different from others. Compared to the dirty things done by the bald eagle and the so-called kingdom of God, Shia group is too restrained. At least they won't put bombs in the products they sell to you. Putting bombs in civilian products, this kind of beastly thing is something that people can think of. I will eat it directly. That's right. It made me dare not use the fruit phone I just bought. Damn it. I support Mr. Su to kill these bastards. Kill kill kill. I want to see rivers of blood. If you only read the first half of this paragraph, many people may still think that Shia group is a poor victim who has to do this to protect their own interests. But after reading the whole article, Su Yi and Shia group give people a completely different feeling point. It's like a strong man who has mastered absolute power, and when facing the provocation of the weak, he still communicates with him patiently and tries to resolve it peacefully. Now the other party doesn't know whether to live or die, and finally angered this peerless strong man, so the strong man decided to punch this stupid thing to death. The people of Kyushu, who live in a big country, don't think there is anything wrong with that kind of dismissive attitude. Most people just think it should be like this, but for those small countries that are not in the Western camp, the meaning is completely different. Especially the people in the oil region who have suffered from the bald eagle and the kingdom of God. In the process of resisting the kingdom of God, they have suffered too many failures. Even if they resist now, they are standing in the perspective of looking up. Many people even think that the kingdom of God and the bald eagle behind it are the real masters of this world, and it is difficult for anyone to disobey. Until now, the boss of a company has directly brought the matter of slaughtering cities and destroying countries to the table, and the target is the kingdom of God. That makes them miserable. This shock is definitely a shock from the depths of the soul. For a while, at least on the internet, many people who support Su Yi emerged. After seeing Su Yi's announcement, the Western camp media editors were eager to use their journalism specific skills to put butcher, Nazi, warmonger and other hats on Su Yi's head, making him infamous for thousands of years, and it was a bit difficult to write for a while. This wind direction is wrong. Shouldn't this world be one in which everyone should love peace and reject war? No matter how dirty or ugly things are done in private, how can someone start a war and still have so many people support it? It doesn't make sense. For a moment, these media all smelled an unusual smell with their keen sense of smell. They all chose very carefully not to jump out and make trouble at this time. The media still needs credibility. If they make mistakes in some small things and make a mistake, it will not be a problem with the accumulated foundation over the years on bigger issues. It is obviously right to follow the position of the camp. Even if there are mistakes, there will be a group of supporters, and there is no need to worry about the collapse of reputation. But the problem now is that not only are there many people who support Su Yi and Shia group on the internet, but even in the Western camp where they are, the official attitudes of many countries seem ambiguous when asked how they view this matter. Many official people just expressed concern. There was even a reporter who asked a question at the regular meeting of the North Pacific Treaty Organization, asking whether the North Pacific Treaty, as one of the largest military organizations in the world, would send troops to intervene if the SYNOPSIS group launched a war of annihilation against the Kingdom of God, to fulfill Suyi's order to clear all carbon-based life in the area. The response of the North Pacific Treaty Organization was also very ambiguous. The person in charge of the speech only said that, if a human tragedy that greatly violated the rules of modern society occurred, the North Pacific Treaty Organization might consider sending troops to intervene. As for what the standard of greatly violating the rules of modern society is, only God knows. Maybe the SYNOPSIS group has already violated it, and the North Pacific Treaty can send troops. Maybe the entire Kingdom of God has been razed to the ground, and it has not yet reached this standard point, but just such a statement, in just a few hours, has attracted strong opposition from several North Pacific Treaty organizations. Everyone is a member of the organization. It is secondary to pay money and send people to fight. Most of the member states of the North Pacific Treaty Organization are not short of money, and those who really have no money can't bear much responsibility. Going to war for other people's affairs is also secondary. They have done this kind of thing before, and everyone will get a share of the benefits after it is done. The most important thing is that they really don't know the composition of the SYNOPSIS group now, and they don't understand the specific strength of the SYNOPSIS group's security department. Although the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is a big country, if you look at it separately, there are not many member countries that are stronger than the Kingdom of God. Chapter 216. SYNOPSIS group can almost be said to have conquered the core of the entire Kingdom of God in 1 hour. It can also easily crush most of the member states of the North Pacific Treaty Organization like crushing insects. The Kingdom of God is the father of the bald eagle, and its location has a huge interest in the bald eagle's oil and music system. So even if the North Pacific Treaty Organization does not care about this matter, everyone knows that the bald eagle will definitely not sit idly by. On the contrary, these North Pacific Treaty member states, everyone says that they are a military alliance, but when it comes to such a critical moment, they may just scatter and disband the organization. It's okay to bully the weak and grab some benefits, but if you really have to face such a powerful and somewhat unknown opponent, who dares to follow? If you want to drive this ship to fight with SYNOPSIS group, the small countries in it will be the first to disagree. After all, within an hour, the capital was shot down without any resistance, which is simply a shame. And it is foreseeable that after such an incident, no matter what the subsequent results are, even if this incident is perfectly resolved, those who are now in charge of the Kingdom of God will probably be liquidated afterwards. Provoking a monster like SYNOPSIS group is obviously a great national risk-taking behavior for those politicians. They may not care so much about the future and fate of the country, but when it comes to whether they can sit firmly in their positions, they can't be careless at all. Non-Western countries are self-reliant about SYNOPSIS group, and Western countries are shocked by the sudden heavy punch of SYNOPSIS group. Now they are a little unsure about what SYNOPSIS group is, and they dare not jump out to stand in line. For a while, after Suyi published that slightly extreme speech, no matter how you look at it, the wind direction of the world actually tends to support him. This makes Suyi himself feel a little weird. This time he really didn't let SYNOPSIS control the comments, but the real reaction of the public opinion was like this. It makes people feel a little outrageous no matter how you look at it. Fortunately, the situation where those who supported him were celebrating, and those who did not support him remained silent did not last long. The day after he released the announcement, Bald Eagle finally responded. But it was not through any official channels, but through the personal account of the sleeping emperor in the Black Palace of Bald Eagle, who gave a reply under Suyi's announcement. Mr. Su, I think there is room for negotiation on everything, and it is not necessary to go to the point of fighting. The leader of the Kingdom of God also contacted me not long ago. They have a deep understanding of the mistakes they made, but they think there are still some misunderstandings. I hope to explain it to you in person. We, Bald Eagle, can act as a middleman in this matter. Of course, if you are worried, we can also invite Jiazhao to witness it together. As far as I know, there is an old saying in Jiazhao, which is to turn hostility into friendship. There are huge misunderstandings between the two sides in this matter. If we can explain it clearly, turn hostility into friendship, and let peace continue, wouldn't it be a good thing if Mr. Su and Shia Group insist on fulfilling what you said as an important force in maintaining world peace? Our bald eagle empire will never turn a blind eye to such cruel slaughter. Picture this. Old man found a gunman from Geo's how to write this thing and ran to Su Yi's personal account to give a reply. The last picture is a photo of the Bald Eagle aircraft carrier. It happened to be the aircraft carrier of the aircraft carrier battle group stationed in the oil region, and the meaning is self-evident. Carrot and stick. This is also a classic method of the Bald Eagle. As for the whole article of partiality and double standards, it is naturally unnecessary to mention at point there are huge misunderstandings between the two sides of the incident, and it is a bit too ridiculous to say this now. Misunderstanding? The evidence is solid. There is no misunderstanding. The Kingdom of God actually sent people to rob Penglay Island during the open day. If there is a misunderstanding, it should be about the stolen technical data and the recovered technical data. The actual situation is that the data they stole was fake, and even these fake data have been taken back. But Suyi is now trying to make use of the issue, so naturally he can't let the other party go so easily. If something is lost, it depends on what the owner says. It's like a thief ran to someone else's house and stole $1. After being caught by the owner, he said that you stole $100. If you can't prove that you didn't steal, you have to pay the money. You said Suyi asked for a high price. Is this taking the opportunity to blackmail? Then I'm sorry, if you didn't have any bad intentions and ran to someone else's house to steal things, how could others have such a high price? So there is no misunderstanding in this matter at all. What was lost is based on the judgment criteria of Shia Group. You, or thief, don't count. As for the threat in the last picture, posted by Leo Deng, Suyi's response was also very simple. My opponent, here are our arguments. Video. He directly replied with a sentence and a video link under Leo Deng's reply. The video was opened, showing a spaceship flying in the starry sky. The spaceship passed through the low Earth orbit of the blue planet at a very high speed, and finally stayed in an area and remained synchronized. Then the perspective of the spaceship shooting at the ground kept zooming in and out. At the end, everyone could see clearly what the spacecraft was shooting at this time. It was a palace that was well known all over the world, the Black Palace, the center of the Bald Eagle. Then the screen turned, and there was another video of the spacecraft conducting a ground attack experiment. The experimental area in the video was the Gobi Desert in Kyushu. From a high altitude perspective, the belly armor of the spacecraft was opened, and a row of huge electromagnetic cannons used for ground attack slowly stretched out from the belly. The thick gun barrels glowed with a cold metallic luster under the sunlight in space. Then it was charged at an extremely fast speed. Almost at the moment when the gun barrels fell into place, dozens of electromagnetic cannons on the belly of the spacecraft fired at the ground at the same time. Then the screen turned back to the ground, where the test site was located. The target of the spacecraft's attack was a small rocky hill more than 200 meters high. The bare hill a second ago was hit by a devastating blow from the high altitude orbit in an instant. The special electromagnetic cannon shells accelerated by the magnetic track smashed into the hard stone mountain at a speed of more than 50 Mach under the acceleration of gravity. Smoke and dust rose up, and flames shot up into the sky. The terrifying explosion instantly made the radio defense near the test site ineffective. When the smoke and dust dissipated, the stone mountain was hit by dozens of electromagnetic cannon shells, and only a pile of broken stones remained. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217. It is not clear how Leo Deng from the Bald Eagle thinks about this, but the netizens who were watching the show were all shocked. No, is this still Blue Star? Where did it come from? What weapon is this? The Rod of God? Or the Eye of God? Have you ever seen an electromagnetic cannon that falls from the sky? I don't quite understand. Is there any big guy who can explain it to me? Is this reasonable? Is this possible to be true? Why do I feel that this video is synthesized? Synthesized. If it was really synthesized, the bald eagle would not have been silenced directly. Really, I guess Leo Deng is now panicking and ready to leave the Black Palace. Ha 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 ha. Don't guess, buddy above. Isn't this the spaceship that sent Mr. Su and his wife to the stage at the completion ceremony of the Shia Group headquarters? It was very popular on the internet at that time and attracted a lot of discussion. Many people thought that this was some kind of aircraft built based on vertical takeoff and landing technology. Because the appearance did not conform to fluid dynamics, some people thought that this thing was good looking but not practical, and the energy consumption should be very high, but the effect was very limited. However, some bigwigs speculated that this kind of airship design was not used in the atmosphere at all. The real use scenario should be outside the atmosphere. Of course, there is no need to consider fluid dynamics, and there is nothing unreasonable in the design. At that time, there was a lot of debate in the aerospace forum about this matter. I didn't expect that it was really recognized by those big wigs now. This is not a flashy thing, but a real spaceship. That's right, I recognized it at a glance, but so many people didn't recognize it. At that time, Mr. Su appeared on the stage with this thing, which made me feel so handsome. I really didn't expect that this thing was so powerful that it could strike the ground, even if it flew to low Earth orbit. I guessed that this thing was a pure vehicle used in the space environment. I didn't expect it to be a weapon. The technology of Shia Group is really awesome, but I heard that the effect of the God's Rod and other things hitting the ground is far less than that in the movie. It shouldn't be possible, right? Do you mean the kind in the movie, where a tungsten rod is directly dropped from orbit? That really has no effect, and the deterrent power of this weapon is not the kind of large-scale destruction shown in the movie. The orbital weapons for ground strikes are strong, because they are hard to defend against. On this basis, if we can find a way to enhance their power and speed, it will be even more unsolvable. Shia Group has obviously done very well in this regard. The shells in those orbital electromagnetic guns for ground strikes are definitely added with materials. It is impossible to be the solid tungsten rods in the movie. That thing does not have such great power. That is, with the technology of Shia Group, they can send such a large spacecraft into the sky, and they can also build such exaggerated exoskeleton armor and metal hydrogen batteries. Isn't it easy to modify a shell? As a military fan for 20 years, I know all the weapons currently in service in various countries around the world. To be honest, this kind of top attack is very difficult to defend, not to mention the terrifying speed of more than 50 Mach. The humans on Blue Star currently have no ability to intercept this weapon. In other words, if what is shown in the video is true, then Shia Group can target any important coordinates on Blue Star, as long as it wants. And others have no power to fight back. This thing is too supermodal. No wonder Mr. Su dared to say that if the kingdom of God did not give a satisfactory answer within 5 days, all carbon-based creatures in this area would disappear. I thought it was bragging at first, but I didn't expect that he really had the confidence. Compared to the excitement of netizens eating melons, the situation of the bald eagle on the other side of the ocean is indeed similar to what many netizens guessed, which is really not good point. After watching the video given by Su Yi, Leo Deng took a special car and ran to an unknown presidential shelter in Bald Eagle without thinking, and hid their point after hiding. He began to gather experts to analyze and study the possibility of the existence of such weapons. After the experts of Bald Eagle carefully analyzed it, they all agreed that this was simply impossible. Shia Group and the fraudster named Su Yi were deceiving them. Bald Eagle point humans currently cannot have such technology point, but although Leo Deng is old and his mind is confused from time to time, he is not completely confused point. After reaching this conclusion, he couldn't help but ask a soul-stirring question. So do you think that the exoskeleton armor, power armor, and metal hydrogen batteries of Shia Group are the technologies that humans should have at present? In One sentence. A group of bald eagle scientific research experts were silenced. Point. It is indeed impossible in theory, but which of the things that Shia group has done are theoretically possible? Just when these experts didn't know how to explain it, the bald eagle's military satellite happened to take an important photo. Point. In the photo, the Mayfly class spacecraft with the Shia group logo slowly floated past the military satellite. Point. If that was all. What was even more outrageous was that there was actually a person wearing power armor outside the spacecraft, sitting on the top of the spacecraft, and looking at the scenery comfortably. Point. It seemed that he casually glanced at their bald eagle military satellite, and the person even reached out to say hello. Point. This photo just happened to capture this scene. Wait, you mean they can not only send such a large spacecraft into space, but also use the power armor that is extremely powerful on the ground in space? Old Deng was shocked after reading it, and he didn't have time to pursue the experts' nonsense. Point. The experts were also confused after reading it. Point. The experts from NASA repeatedly looked at the photos, and then repeatedly looked at the photos of Shia group's power armor on the blue planet, pointing to the armor parts with obvious gaps on the armor, and shouted that this is not scientific at all. Point. After all, spacesuits require airtightness, and at the same time they have to take into account many functions, which makes most of the current spacesuits look very bloated. Point. But this armor doesn't look like it is very airtight, even if this part is protected under the armor. From their perspective of modern technology, this space is probably not enough. Point. On this day, the experts from the bald eagle once again felt the fear of being hit by technological dimensionality reduction. Point. I don't understand. I don't understand at all. Chapter 218. Impossible. We absolutely cannot agree to their conditions. This is a robbery. Shia group and their boss Suyi are shameless robbers. Our kingdom of God will never agree to such a humiliating condition. No matter. Impossible. You bald eagles must help us. Send your fleet and the garrison nearby. Our kingdom of God has now assembled hundreds of thousands of troops inside and outside the capital. With the help of your army, it will not be a problem to defeat those iron lumps. What? You are not sure? We are allies. Allies. You can't abandon us at this time. After hanging up the phone, the head of the kingdom of God stood there in a daze for a long time. Point. He really didn't expect that things could develop to this extent in just a few days. At this moment, he really understood the value of the sentence, the person who wronged you knows how wronged you are better than you do. He wanted to open up to everyone and tell the world that what Shia group said was bullshit. Their kingdom of God didn't steal so much technology. Those people passed the news to him before they came back. What they stole was just exoskeleton armor technology. Point. What nuclear fusion? What space elevator? What spaceship? Point. What the hell? This thing can be stolen by someone just running to a factory on Penglay Island. But unfortunately, he couldn't say it. Point. Because they did steal things and the evidence is conclusive. Point. At this time, come out and tell everyone that we did send people to Penglay Island to steal things, but we didn't steal so much. And the stolen things were taken back by Shia group before they were warmed up. Is this something that can be said? Keeping silent can also make many people with firm positions think that this is Shia group deliberately provoking trouble and continue to support their kingdom of God. Point. If the real situation is exposed, then they will really become thieves who steal technology. Point. And they were taken back just after they stole it. Not only are they thieves, but they are also clowns. This matter is so ugly that it is hard to talk about it. Point. But lying down and letting others laugh at them is not an option now. Point. They have been silent since the incident, but the Shia group has been relentless. Now they have sent armed forces to block the capital of the kingdom of God on the grounds that they have kidnapped a reporter. What a shame. This is a shame. Point. At this time, they realized that things had developed to a situation that they had never expected before. Point. It was even far beyond their ability to handle. Point. Because the people of the kingdom of God have tried it in the past 2 days. Tens of thousands of elite soldiers who had just been mobilized back from the front, tried to break through the blockade of the Shia group and force their way into the city. This army not only has a large number of armored units, but also has air force support in the sky. In front of some big countries, it is of course nothing. But in the stone region, it is really invincible, and there are basically few countries' armies that can beat them. This army has experienced many wars in the early days of the Kingdom of God. And it is no exaggeration to say that it is an elite army. However, such an elite force of the Kingdom of God was blocked by a team of about 200 heavy exoskeletons and 3 power armors when trying to enter the city. Then they knew what dimensionality reduction strikes from military technology were. In less than an hour, all armored units were paralyzed, and any military aircraft that interfered with the sky was shot down. As soon as they came into contact, this elite division equipped with top-level equipment collapsed directly. It was demechanized at the speed of light and turned directly into a World War II level army. In addition to the individual weapons in hand, let alone tanks and aircraft, even self-propelled artillery with a slightly larger caliber were dealt with at the first time. The first batch of soldiers who came into contact with these super individual soldiers of the Shia group was a brigade of more than 6,000 people. After the contact, there were less than 1,000 people left. It is worth mentioning that almost none of these 1,000 people were injured. And the nearly 5,000 people who died were all fatally injured with a single headshot. In other words, those who exchanged fire with the Shia group security department were either dead or nothing happened. There was no possibility of injury, let alone the concept of prisoners, because you had no chance to surrender, in the words of the surviving soldiers on the front line. These monsters equipped with exoskeleton armor and power armor seemed to be on the rise, and almost every bullet hit the target point, and hiding behind any bunker was useless, and they could not avoid being detected at all. In addition, the shock brought to them by these armors was far more than that. When someone saw a power armor tearing up a tank, lifting a Murkov main battle tank weighing dozens of tons directly, and then flying into the air, using it to smash another main battle tank and a dozen soldiers around it, and then spreading the news in the camp. The morale of the entire Kingdom of God's army has been completely dispersed. Let them fight those poor oil region rebels. Of course they can hit hard and even sit in armored units such as tanks, and laugh at these people for overestimating their abilities, but now they have to deal with the Shia group security department, whose technology and equipment are far superior to theirs. They have been used to fighting with the wind for a long time, and once the intensity increases, they encounter this kind of enemy that you can't understand at all. Many people naturally cannot adapt. The result of not being able to adapt is that after the first contact, the entire army of the Kingdom of God generally has a pessimistic attitude towards this war, even when the superiors conveyed the order again, asking them to force their way into the city to defend the presidential residence, even if they could not defeat the armored soldiers of the Shia group. All the soldiers in the Kingdom of God refused. The military naturally did not want to lose too many elite soldiers under its command, and weaken its own strength to clean up the ass of those stupid politicians. So after the initial attempted attack, the troops stationed near the capital of the Kingdom of God and inside the capital have never had any conflicts with the soldiers of the security department. Watching the people of the Shia group security department flatten the useless buildings around them and build temporary camps of strange shapes at various locations, they did not dare to disturb them at all. Their own army could not be relied on, so for the high level officials of the Kingdom of God, the only one they could rely on now was the big boy, the bald eagle. But just now, the supreme leader of the Kingdom of God received news from the bald eagle. Bald eagle's intention was to persuade them to accept the conditions proposed by Shia group first, even if they were dissatisfied with the content of the conditions. After they accepted it, bald eagle would definitely come forward to help them negotiate the unacceptable parts. This is a result that the Kingdom of God absolutely cannot accept. Chapter 219. There has always been a half-joking and half-serious statement on the internet. That is, the bald eagle is the son of the Kingdom of God. This statement cannot be said to be wrong, but it is not so correct either. The relationship between the bald eagle and the Kingdom of God is very complicated. First of all, the gods who created the Kingdom of God have long been a very powerful force within the bald eagle, and can even influence some official decisions of the bald eagle to a certain extent. It is not an exaggeration To say that they control the political situation point, this has a lot to do with the characteristics of the two countries as an immigrant country. The bald eagle essentially has no ethnicity. After all, the scalps of the native ethnic groups have been peeled off and used as leather shoes, so in theory, anyone can get a place in the bald eagle, regardless of your origin. Only whether you have money point, of course. This only exists in theory, and in reality it depends on whether your skin color is correct point, and the gods are a nation that has been wandering for a long time. This nation does not engage in production, but makes a living by doing business, and is connected by religion point. Not engaging in production and making a living by doing business is a nice way of saying it, but to put it bluntly, it is speculation point. In ancient times, they like to lend money at high interest rates. Groups formed with religion as a bond will basically not integrate into the local area. After they form a group, they will always be a ghost-like group, floating outside the main ethnic group in a region point. It is precisely because of this that excluding the gods is no longer a rare thing even in the West. It has existed since ancient times, but the bald eagle does not look at your origin. What is more valuable is that the skin color of their gods is also correct point for the gods who are excluded by people all over the world. This is naturally a paradise and paradise point. With their habit of forming a group, they have become a huge force within the bald eagle a long time ago point. After experiencing the World War, they have gained more favorable chips by virtue of their correct identity as victims. After the war, there was a cold war between the two giants. When one giant fell, the bald eagle gradually relaxed. With the development of the financial industry and the hollowing out of the manufacturing industry, such a bald eagle is simply a perfect parasite for the gods with their accumulated capital and group characteristics. They have long grown into a large group that can influence the bald eagle empire point. From this point of view, the joke that the kingdom of God is the father of the bald eagle is actually correct point, but if you really treat the bald eagle as your own son, it is definitely not okay point. After all, even if it is such a group of people, the upper class who are doing well in the bald eagle will not do anything for your kingdom of God. It is correct that they can influence the decision making of the bald eagle to a certain extent, but it is far from being able to order the bald eagle to take such a military adventure facing an unknown enemy point. What era is this? Even fools know not to fight unprepared wars. If the bald eagle is really sure, it would have opened fire on the Shire group before Penglay Island was built point. Why wait until now? They didn't fight before, and now it is naturally impossible to end it directly because of a kingdom of God point. Otherwise, once the war starts, it will not be up to them to decide when to stop point. It would be fine if they could win easily. Not only could they save the kingdom of God, but they could also plunder the coveted technologies of the Shire group. To a certain extent, they could even stimulate the economy by exporting conflicts through war. But once they get stuck in the quagmire of war, it is very likely that the already precarious financial situation of the bald eagle will collapse directly point. Even if they rush into the war and are crushed by the Shire group, they will be finished point. As we all know, God cannot be injured point. Once the God is injured and bleeds, more and more daring people will naturally stand up to challenge the authority of the God point. This is the situation of the bald eagle now point. In a sense, in the military field, they are indeed godlike in name point, but how weak their powerful appearance is, only they themselves know point. Anyway, before they figure out what the outrageous exoskeleton armor and power armor of the Shire group are, how to target them, and what weaknesses they have point, they will never go to war with the Shire group point. Even if the kingdom of God is killed, they will not intervene directly point. At most, they can only use their economic influence and media advantages to put some trade and public opinion pressure on Shire group point. If they really don't want to be fooled, then don't be fooled point. What else can they do? Fight desperately. This is a fake father, not a real father. The real father has now become a son, and they still want them, the bald eagles, to honor a wild father who came out of nowhere from the national level of the bald eagle empire. The kingdom of God is essentially just a tool for them to control the oil region and ensure the normal operation of their oil knife music system point. The mission is to disrupt the oil region so that this place will never be at peace and will always be in turmoil point. In this way, they can guarantee their own interests and strangle the lifeline of the world point. Otherwise, if such a large area is really allowed to develop on its own, It is not certain when they will recall the glory of the Arab Empire thousands of years ago and unite again. Point at that time, can they still let them, the bald eagles, control the oil resources and the lifeline of the world's energy so easily? Obviously not. A chaotic oil region is what they want to see. Point the kingdom of God is the role of a troublemaker compared to directly defending the kingdom of God. It is very likely to fail directly, and the oil and gas system relying on military hegemony will collapse at the speed of light. Point they might as well sit on the sidelines and watch the kingdom of God being killed by the Shia group and lose this troublemaker. Even if the Shia group or Jiao intervenes in the future, the unrest in this area will be quelled, and an alliance or a large-scale political system covering the entire region will be formed, so that the bald eagle will no longer control the oil. Point. That will take a long time. Point. This kind of thing will take at least 10 or 20 years to do, and it is not something that can be decided in the short term. Point. Even under normal circumstances, it is not certain whether their oil system can be maintained until that time, let alone now. Point. So for the bald eagle, giving up the kingdom of God now will not cause much loss. This trick. Point. This trick is called using space to exchange time. Point. Even if you give up the kingdom of God, you must be prudent and protect yourself and delay as long as you can. Point. Anyway, they are free enough. No matter what the superiors have done, they can resign and leave as soon as their term of office is up. They don't need to bear any responsibility when they are alive, and no one will hold them accountable when they die. Point. Everyone is playing the game of passing the parcel. As long as the authority of the empire does not collapse in my hands, it will definitely not be me who will be on the pillar of shame in the end. Point. Of course, I will delay it as long as I can. Point. As long as I don't fight hard now, it's all a small matter. Chapter 220. Is there any news from the kingdom of God? In the office, Suyi, who had just woken up, asked casually, "Sir, not yet. They are still silent as usual." Xianshu replied, "There are less than 10 hours left before the 3 days you specified. If they still haven't said anything when the time is up, will they launch an attack as planned?" "Well, just hit it directly. You don't need to think too much," Suyi said lightly. "Sir, there is something I don't understand," Xianshu said with some confusion. "I made this plan before, just to gain control of the kingdom of God and use it to gain more benefits for the group. But now that things have developed to this extent, it seems that we cannot do this, and the group is still involved in the risk of war. The outcome of the war is often difficult to predict. Even if we have military equipment that far exceeds that of the other party, it is very difficult to do so. It's hard to guarantee a complete victory. I don't think it's in the interests of the group, and it's not consistent with the commercial knowledge of my process. This is not because I'm afraid of war. You know, the world I live in is not peaceful. It is not uncommon for wars to break out between giant companies. As an advanced commercial AI that can control giant companies, there are certain things in my program. Corresponding war module. Hearing Xianshu's question, Suyi couldn't help but smile and said, "Human beings are very complex, and many times the reasons for starting wars are not all interests, or not all for the immediate interests. The underlying operating logic of most things in this world is actually very straightforward. That is, the exchange of interests, and what businessmen do is essentially an exchange of interests in which they gain profits. But do you know why businessmen's interest exchange behaviors are separated from other things and called businessmen? After all, when it comes to exchange of interests, those politicians, many times what they do is essentially based on this logic, and they are often more polite and have no bottom line than businessmen. But most people think that politicians and businessmen are completely different." Xianshu was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't know how to answer. Suyi's continued, "Because businessmen value short-term benefits. And the same is the exchange of interests. Most serious politicians value longer-term benefits. Of course, this means that the two groups have different emphases and cannot be roughly used to refer to one of them. Just like war, sometimes war cannot gain any benefits, but can only gain a certain reputation. In the eyes of businessmen, this kind of war is obviously not cost-effective, and there is no need to invest at all. After all, although reputation is valuable, but it's very difficult to realize it. But in the eyes of politicians, something that can only reflect long-term value, such as reputation, is also worth investing in. The difference lies in the strength and cost of the investment, and whether it is consistent with one's long-term plan. So, what you are saying is that even if the war does break out, it will be in the long-term interests of the group if we completely wipe out the kingdom of God on Blue Star? Xianshu seemed to suddenly understand, and immediately said, yes, this will actually remove the bald eagle's most important chess piece in the oil region, greatly weakening the bald eagle's power. Before it is temporarily impossible to obtain from the outside the ability to deal with the current intercontinental missile delivery plus nuclear weapons on Blue Star, it is indeed a very feasible method to weaken the bald eagle's power and try to disintegrate the country most likely to launch a nuclear attack on Penglay Island. From this perspective, if the follow-up development can follow our established direction, the benefits of this investment will obviously be worth it. Having said this, Xianshu was a little confused and said, but this kind of investment is too long-term after all. There will be a lot of uncertain factors interfering in the middle. The process in the middle is extremely complicated. There is strong uncertainty about whether the goal can be achieved. Is it really worth it? It's really difficult. Suyi shrugged, but we need to prepare for the worst at all times and be prepared with multiple hands. We need to find ways to deal with these nuclear weapons from Bela or other worlds and avoid the restart of the world. And once I find them, I will just flip the table and stop acting. However, we have gradually squeezed the bald eagle's living space in other ways in a peaceful way, and of course we have to use the means to neutralize their nuclear threat. So I did not go directly to seek the bald eagle's bad luck. Now, this is just accelerating the process at most. It is far from reaching the threshold that the bald eagle cannot tolerate. We are now trying to raise their threshold to avoid our and Kayashi's nuclear fusion experiment in 2 months. If it is piled up, it will be so irritating that they can't bear it, and they will really choose to take military risks. To put it bluntly, targeting the kingdom of God is actually his testing of the bald eagle, raising the opponent's threshold through constant testing point after kingdom of God. There is also foot pot chicken point after all. Suyi's little tail is now in Suyi's hand, and he has the final say when to use this reason to cause trouble point. If the bald eagle in the kingdom of God finally chooses to stand aside and protect itself, Suyi will perform surgery on the chicken in the next step by step. Test the other party's lower limit point under normal circumstances. After the opponent continues to test and give up its own chips, the sunk cost of direct war will become higher and higher. The threshold of patience will naturally increase. Some people like to use this method of training dogs to train people, but Suyi now plans to use it to train a country. Of course, there will be great risks in the middle. After all, this kind of political system cannot be completely anthropomorphized. But the feasibility should be very high. Cutting meat with a blunt knife is the behavior that least irritates the opponent's nerves. When the Shianayu group turned Blue Star upside down, Wei in the magic world was naturally not idle. After so many days, she easily gained the support of the cattle, horse, sheep and other tribes among the northern orcs through the huge amount of food in her hands. Finally, before the northern army was fully assembled, some orcs were moved into the camp she prepared for these orcs, that is, the flat small plain in front of Mengchuan city, and further north, there is a canyon pass with a width of only 300 meters. After this period of construction, with the Jiuzhou reinforcement using a large number of engineering equipment and the cooperation of the local magicians in Mengchuan city, this pass has become a super city wall with a height of hundreds of meters and a thickness of more than 50 meters. Of course, in this world, the city wall is not something that you can stop the enemy just because it is high and thick enough. At present, the wall of this pass can only be considered relatively stable in this world. Chapter 221. In the magic world, ordinary brick and stone walls are actually not particularly useful, no matter how high or thick they are. In the face of those messy magics, if you want the walls to be stable, you must have enough magic resistance. The main reason why Mengchuan city was able to hold off so many coalition forces for several years is that the magic resistance of Mengchuan city's walls is high enough. So high that even every brick of the wall has a special magic inscription point. In fact, apart from these magic inscriptions, the height of Mengchuan City's walls is only 100 meters and the thickness is only a dozen meters in ancient Kyushu. This is undoubtedly an insurmountable natural barrier, but in this magic world, where high-level warriors can tear tanks apart with their hands and magicians can easily use wind, rain, thunder and lightning, such walls are not good enough. Not to mention the distant past. A high-level earth magician can make the walls of ordinary cities collapse from the foundation to the walls with a simple earth magic. Only a border fortress like Mengchuan City, which has invested heavily in building it, can have a wall that is almost completely immune to magic. It is said that even a 9th level or even a demigod level magician can hardly cause much damage to the wall with magic. So to capture such a city, you can only pay with human lives and send people to rush in continuously. If you encounter other cities with the scale of the coalition, even if your walls are high and thick, you can still blow them up with tens of thousands of magicians using various magic bombardments. There is no condition to hold on at all. So don't think that the wall of the pass is so awesome just because it is high and thick. In fact, in front of the Northern Army that is about to go south, the real obstacle is still Mengchuan City, not this small pass. This thing has only built a wall now. It is not a great pass in this world. It can only be regarded as a small threshold before approaching Mengchuan City. In a short period of time, we can only recruit various magicians to enchant the walls of the pass by spending money and food. Fortunately, the value of money and food in this world is basically the same, and having food in her hand is no different from having money. So the progress of this enchantment is not slow. It's just that the Northern Army is about to go south. According to the latest news, after learning that Mengchuan City is constantly recruiting orcs to try to divide the races in the north, the Elf Kingdom has accelerated the speed of summoning the Alliance Army, and even the vanguard troops sent in advance have set off. It will arrive at the pass in 3 to 5 days at the latest. Don't think that there are not many people just because it is a vanguard. The actual situation is that there are as many as 5 million troops in this vanguard army, including more than 500,000 elite warriors of the elves, and the rest are all excellent warriors carefully selected from various races. There are almost no ordinary people in it, and the worst are warriors. The determination of the North is obvious. Even if it has not yet been completely coordinated, it must first send such an elite army to take Mengchuan City. And 3 to 5 days is obviously not enough for her to have people enchant this city wall to the level of Mengchuan City. So it is nonsense to expect deep trenches and high fortifications to withstand the enemy's first wave of offensive. Fortunately, in addition to deep trenches and high fortifications, she still has some trump cards in her hand. For example, the artillery troops from Jiuzhou. This kind of long-range delivery firepower is absolutely invincible on the battlefield of cold weapons. It can greatly eliminate the difference in numbers. Although it has been more than a month since the last Jiuzhou reinforcement, the news that we got from the north is that the north still has no way to deal with this overwhelming firepower. Attack. It is precisely because of this that after the other races in the north decided to unite with the elves, there was a lot of controversy about whether to take the Mengchuan City of the Qiang Empire. Although the Qiang Empire was in civil strife, the persistence of Mengchuan City in the past few years has already proved their awakening to defend the city. Among the 6 main roads to the south, Mengchuan City is the most difficult one and the one with the best city defensibility. Although the countries that block the other 5 passes from going south have no internal unrest at present, the determination of the garrisons and the defensive capabilities of the cities may not be comparable to those of Mengchuan City. If they really want to fight, it is hard to say whether it will be more difficult to fight than Mengchuan City. Especially after learning that many tribes of the orcs have reached an agreement with Mengchuan City and moved south to Mengchuan City, which greatly compensated for the problem that Mengchuan City did not have enough garrison troops. The voice of opposition became even louder and the elves insisted on going south from Mengchuan City. Of course, they also had their reasons. Yuling, who was holding the core of the elves' Fountain of Life, disappeared here. Although the current situation of the Fountain of Life is that even if the core is found, it cannot be saved. But the core of the Fountain of Life is a unique treasure in the world. There are definitely countless other uses it would be best if it could be found. This is one of the reasons. Another reason is that among the princes of the Chiang Empire who are currently competing for the throne, the mother of one of them is actually from the Dark Elf tribe of their elves going south from other openings. Even if they break through the pass, they will still have to face endless wars in the future, and the future is bleak, no matter how you look at it. Going south from Mengchuan City and entering the Chiang Empire. As long as they can support the prince to ascend the throne, they will naturally have the confidence to live and work in the Chiang Empire. Even splitting the land and becoming a king is not a bad idea. After all, the Chiang Empire is big enough to give them 2 billion foreigners, or hundreds of millions of elves, enough space to survive. Of course, for now, the Chiang Empire prince who has a relationship with the elves is still at the level of a little Karami, and it is impossible for him to compete for the throne. Among the princes, he is the kind that Wu Wei is too lazy to touch and ask for benefits, but it doesn't matter. The Elf King believes that as long as he can successfully lead this background army to the south, then by relying on this powerful foreign aid, he can naturally push him to the throne and achieve his goal. For these two reasons, the elves naturally insisted on going south from Mengchuan City. And the other tribes thought that this risk was too great and not in their interests. The two sides were deadlocked, so they sent out such a vanguard army composed of elites from various tribes. Chapter 222. The army is as large as 5 million, and it is different from the mob of 1 million that was temporarily united before. These are all elites drawn from various tribes. Once the war starts, the intensity is definitely not comparable to the previous war facing the powerful enemy. The pressure on Mengchuan City is naturally a huge. For Wei Wei, the North's vanguard troops going south this time is a test and an opportunity. If she can easily defeat this vanguard army of more than 5 million people, then she will naturally have the qualifications to negotiate with the tribes in the north. With the food she has now, it is actually enough for the more than 2 billion aliens in the north to survive in the cold winter. As for the problem of cold, it is not as difficult to solve as food. As long as there is enough food, there are ways to keep warm even in the cold winter. Then the two sides theoretically have no reason to fight to the death. There is even a chance to turn these northern aliens into their own helpers. But if the battle was not fought so beautifully, even if the vanguard army was finally defeated, the northern aliens would probably use her as a breakthrough point to continue to force their way south. There is a very realistic problem here. That is, it is better to have it yourself than to have it from your parents. No matter how much food Wei Wei has and how many people she can supply, the food is in her hands after all. Will the northern aliens be willing to let her control the lifeline of food and pin the lives of countless people in the entire tribe on the thoughts of her, the princess of the Chiang Empire? Of course not. In comparison, it is obviously the most advantageous option to capture Mengchuan City, enter the warm territory of the Chiang Empire, and seize a piece of land with enough resources to support so many of them. So, even if she has enough food, she must first defeat all these aliens if she wants to tame them. The key lies in the battle that is about to happen. However, although the other side sent 5 million troops to the south, the good news is that the power in Wei Wei's hands is also different from the past. More than half a month had passed since the last war, and this time was enough for her to spread the news of the strange movements of the northern tribes and the current situation that Mengchuan City was facing to the entire empire. Now the affairs of the northern border were known to everyone in the Chiang Empire. Her brothers and sisters were still fighting for the throne. The most elite knights in the empire were still in civil war, but there was no shortage of people who hated infighting and people who cared about the world at any time. What Wei Wei wanted was the support of these people. The result was indeed as she wished. During this period, a large number of idol warriors, magicians, and people from many cities south of Mengchuan City spontaneously rushed to Mengchuan City. Among them were a large number of high-level strongmen. This directly led to a large increase in the number of high-end combat forces in Mengchuan City. Originally, for Wei Wei, facing this 5 million army, the biggest pressure was not the large number of this army, but the fact that there would also be more high-end combat forces and the large number of elite armies. If Mengchuan City does not have enough high-end combat power to hold back the other side. The artillery units of the Jiuzhou reinforcement may not be able to play their old point, but now it is different. With the support of these strong men from all over the Qiang Empire, the number of strong men under Wei Wu's command is already very terrifying. In addition to these high-end combat forces, there are also a large number of low and middle level warriors and magicians who have come to Mengchuan City. In the case of no shortage of money and food, Wei Wu can be said to be open to all comers and take as many as they want. Even if ordinary people say they come to support Mengchuan City, but in fact they want to get a meal, she will accept them all. Anyway, there is a lot of food, so she is not afraid of being eaten out of money. Even in the Qiang Empire, the north is far poorer than the south, and the people on the northern border are even more. So when I heard that the mayor of Mengchuan City was so generous, working for Mengchuan City, not only provided 3 meals a day, but also received an extra reward of 2 kilograms of food a day. Such a good thing is unheard of. It is no exaggeration to say that it has never happened before. For a time, residents of some border cities gathered in Mengchuan City during the slack season. And even these ordinary people, if they are willing to go to the battlefield, can join the City Defense Army of Mengchuan City. The City Defense Army is different from the regular knights. All members of the Knights of the Qiang Empire can be awarded the title of knight, so there are not many regular knights. Wei Wu only has 2 knights. At the beginning, one is her own Red Flame Knights, with a staff of 50,000 people. The other is a knight organization approved by the Imperial Military Department that was established by the second prince not long ago. We named it the Snow Feather Knights. This kind of knight belongs to the regular army of the Qiang Empire. If you want to join it, you must be a 2nd or 3rd level warrior or above to have a chance. The next level is her Princess Guard, and her City Lord Guard is the City Lord of Mengchuan City. This level of troops is a private soldier, and the entry threshold is also very high, even higher than those of the regular knights. Not only strength is considered, but also whether the background is clean and loyal. They are also composed of warriors. The next is some mixed troops. There are also warriors and ordinary people mixed in. This kind of troops has the largest number of people and usually has a relatively low combat effectiveness. Those cavalry regiments, various guards and the like are basically all kinds of light cavalry and armored cavalry. Among these mixed troops, war horses or warcraft mounts are relatively niche. Many of them don't even have complete armor and weapons. Their position on the battlefield is basically cannon fodder and filling in troops' city. Defense troops are such an existence. But the good news is that in the Qiang Empire, compared with the strict organization requirements for various guards and knights, city defense troops can be expanded infinitely, and there is no specific recruitment standard. As long as you can support so many troops, you can recruit hundreds of millions of troops. After all, the role of this kind of army is basically only to defend the city, and it also needs a lot of city defense equipment to be of some use. If it really comes to field battles, a serious knight group of tens of thousands of people who have undergone rigorous training can smash the millions of troops of this miscellaneous army with just one charge. There is no threat to the center of the empire at all. Taking advantage of this loophole, Wei Wu is now relying on the countless food in her hands to frantically expand the city defense forces in her hands. She is also extremely crazy to build very serious armor and weapons for these city defense forces. She is even teaching these people to use single soldier portable rocket launchers in just less than 10 days. The number of this city defense force has exceeded 10 million. Chapter 223. This mixed unit is of course theoretically an indisputable ragtag army. But with the blessing of Wei Wu's money, even these ragtag armies are probably better equipped than many knights in the Knight's Order. As long as they join the City Defense Army, everyone will be issued a set of tightly protected, newly built full body armor according to their body shape and height. This armor was designed and manufactured urgently by the factory in Jiuzhou, which recently brought together hundreds of experts in related industries and worked overtime. There are 7 styles in total. The most basic version, according to the requirements given above, is comparable to the infantry armor of the Song dynasty. The weight of the armor reaches dozens of kilograms, and swords, spears, and halberds cannot break through the defense point. Only blunt weapons can cause damage to soldiers wearing this armor in ancient times on Blue Star. Those who could wear this heavy armor were elite soldiers who had undergone rigorous training and had to eat meat every meal point. But in the magic world, where the average physical fitness is far ahead of Blue Star, this kind of armor can basically be worn by everyone. And the protective ability is also very good. The armor for tens of millions of people was produced in several factories in Jiuzhou at the same time. With the assembly line production, it was delivered in less than a week. Now the second batch of 30 million sets is still being made and will be delivered in a month at the latest. What kind of concept is a heavy armored army of tens of millions? This means that when the coalition forces are fighting in the medium and long range, except for those special arrows and weapons with magic inscriptions, there will be almost no threat to the city defense army of Mengchuan City. Even when it comes to the siege, the warriors of the coalition forces will kill on the city wall, and they may not be able to start facing the iron lumps on the city wall. Low level warriors want to kill an ordinary person wearing such heavy armor, and they really can't kill him in one shot. Not to mention that there are also a lot of warriors mixed in these iron lumps when it comes to the siege. The moment the coalition army attacks the city wall, they will understand what it means to draw the sword and look around in confusion. They don't know who to cut at all. In addition to armor, there are also various weapons that can be used in cold weapon wars. We purchased all of them in bulk from Blue Star. She found that she had fallen in love with the feeling of emptying the shopping cart directly when she wanted something. And these industrial products from Blue Star are simply too easy to use. Although if we really compare the quality, these armors may not be better than the armors made by experienced craftsmen in the magic world. But the problem is that they are in large quantities. Not only can they meet the needs, but there are also a lot of redundant stocks. If they break, just replace them. In addition to these traditional cold weapons, she also purchased a large number of disposable rocket launchers from Blue Star Jiuzhou at the suggestion of the Jiuzhou reinforcement headquarters. This thing is simple and crude. Even the most ordinary soldiers in Mengchuan City only need to learn it roughly to know how to fire it. Anyway, these people are strong, and wearing dozens of kilograms of armor is like playing. It doesn't hurt to carry a few more sets of rocket launchers on their backs. During the war, we directly bought all the inventory from Jiuzhou at once. Jiuzhou obviously won't make any restrictions on this kind of basic individual weapon. If you want it, you can give it. Anyway, even if a war breaks out, the factory's production capacity will explode in a matter of minutes. Of course, now the military factories in Jiuzhou are already over capacity. Those military factories that were originally thought to have been eliminated after the Xianyu group produced those armors and completely changed the framework of modern warfare. Instead, they have a second spring in the process of supporting the war in the other world. They worked overtime to produce a large number of basic weapons and shells, and the explosives filled in them were all metallic hydrogen from the Xianyu group. The power is terrifying. We not only equipped the most basic army in Mengchuan City with armor, swords and simple and crude rocket launchers, but also specially purchased tens of thousands of artillery and more artillery shells after this period of intensive training by the Jiuzhou reinforcement. There are already a group of people in Mengchuan City who can barely operate these weapons. Adding tens of thousands of ordinary artillery is not a problem at all. Anyway, in this kind of cold weapon battlefield, they don't need to execute too complicated instructions. They just need to look at the scale and adjust the firing range according to the command, and then keep stuffing shells to blow her mother up. Ordinary artillery is all mechanical structure, simple and crude, and it won't cost much if they break it. Just build it directly. At least in terms of firepower, Mengchuan City can be said to have put all the firepower it can. There are tens of millions of heavy armored troops, and each person is heavily armored. The huge number is not inferior to the opponent's high-end combat power. The existence is also a stabilizing force, which can safely ensure that these firepower networks, which are basically composed of low and middle level warriors, magicians, and ordinary people, can be safely delivered and not be broken up by the opponent's high-end combat power. This is Weiwu's confidence. She notes that her trump cards are more than these. At present, more than 100 million orcs have been stationed in the canyon plain outside Mengchuan City, which is dozens of kilometers long. These orcs were bought by her with food and took the initiative to surrender the people who have been in contact with them for a long time. These days are also the reinforcement from Jiazhou point. It is the same as Weiwu's previous guess. The attitude of the people of Jiazhou towards these orcs obviously touched these orcs who have been in the contempt chain for a long time. Point these days, when they are free and have nothing to do, they can ask them to help with something. They don't even need to notify the elders and senior officials of the orc tribes. The lower level orcs will agree directly, and they will work very hard, and will not be lazy at all. Point at the same time, recruiting troops from these orcs to garrison the temporary pass is also in progress. Everything is voluntary. Of course, the treatment of these orcs who join the army is definitely much better than that of ordinary orcs. Orcs are basically big eaters. Although Weiwu has food, she can't make it randomly. Point for those ordinary orcs who don't join the army, the food she provides can only allow them to achieve the most basic food and clothing, and they won't starve to death. Point. If you want to eat enough, you have to work. Helping to build walls, dig trenches, and fortifications can get a certain amount of compensation, which is enough to make them eat enough. Point. But if you want to eat well, you have to join the army. Point. As long as you join the army, life is heaven compared to ordinary orcs attracted by such favorable conditions, and the fact that the people of Jiazhou and the orcs have been getting along very happily these days. The orcs have gradually developed some trust in these humans. Although due to the nature of these herbivorous orcs, they are still a little afraid of war and dare not join the army. The result is much better than we had expected. Point. In less than half a month, they have recruited more than 2 million orc troops. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224. Unlike humans, these orcs have the strength of warriors, even second and third level warriors, when they grow up. Point. The armor they wear after joining the army is certainly not ordinary human armor. It is super heavy armor specially made for them. Point. There are several styles in total. The armor equipped for the weakest orc warriors must be more than 100 kilograms. The armor equipped for those powerful orc warriors is 500 to 600 kilograms. The armor on the chest is almost the same as the tank armor, let alone swords, spears, swords, halberds and other weapons. Even if the rocket launcher hits them head on, it may not be able to penetrate. Point. Such an orc army, as long as they are trained to overcome their fear of war, will be a cold weapon version of a tank unit on the battlefield. Point. There is no problem in sweeping the battlefield. Point. What heavy cavalry and shock cavalry will kill themselves when they rush in front of them. Point. Light cavalry is not very useful. They have several rocket launchers per person. Can your bow and arrow range be farther than this thing? A large number of high-end combat forces have joined, plus tens of millions of basic troops, and millions of elite orc warriors. This is a reason why Weiwu is not afraid of the 5 million Northern Vanguard troops, and wants to fight this battle beautifully. Point. After all, she is preparing for the worst situation, that the 2 billion alien races in the north can't survive and all rush to Mengcho and City. Point. Now they only send a vanguard troop over. She has never thought about the possibility of losing this battle. The only suspense is whether she can win beautifully. Point. Of course, such a thorough preparation is not only the massive food that Suyi gave her, it is also inseparable from the strong support of Blue Star Jiazhou. Point. This kind of support is obviously not without cost, and some chips have to be paid. Point. Otherwise, even if Jiazhou intends to support a friend from another world, it is impossible to invest so much. Point. Admittedly, these things are nothing to Jiazhou, which has the maximum industrial capacity. Point. But the difficulty lies in the need to make them in a short period of time. Point. Whether it is the most basic individual rocket launcher or the various styles and sizes of armor and weapons. In fact, there is not much technical difficulty for a modern industrial country. Point. The difficulty lies in the need to create a large number of usable finished products in a very short time. Point. The personnel and material mobilization involved are very complicated. Point. And strict confidentiality is required. Point. It is actually quite difficult to do it. Point. Jiazhou certainly can't give it for free. Point. The price that Weiwu needs to pay is actually very simple. Point. Not long ago, there was a professional survey team in the Jiazhou reinforcement. Under the protection of the elite knights of Mengchuan City, they went out of the city to survey the surrounding terrain and various resources on the first day. An open pit iron mine that was unprecedented in the history of Blue Star was discovered in the northern mountains less than 60 kilometers away from Mengchuan City Point. After a simple sampling test, it was found that the grade of this iron ore was higher than the best iron ore on Blue Star. The estimated reserves of this mine alone are conservatively estimated to be in the billions. The next day, various mineral deposits such as copper, aluminum, and coal were discovered. All of them were found within 100 kilometers around Mengchuan City Point. The coal mine is even behind Mengchuan City, on the edge of the mountain range. The reserves are completely astronomical. The surveyors dare not even say the conservative data, which feels a bit too shocking. And these mines are not only extremely rich in reserves, but also from the surrounding environment. The difficulty of mining is also very low using modern methods. This extremely rich resource is the real reason why Jiazhao is willing to increase investment. And Wei is also quite decisive. She didn't say the price of the mines that have been discovered so far, and all of them were given to Jiazhao in the name of gifts. Originally, she planned to give some to Suyi, but Suyi was not very interested in this thing. He wanted to mine Bailu with plenty of them, so there was no need to dig. So these mines have all been signed by Wei and sold to Jiazhao. Of course, many of them were handled by Suyi. After both sides determined the needs and prepared the contract, Suyi took Jiazhao's contract to the trading space for Wei to sign, and after Wei's contract was ready, Suyi took it to Jiazhao to sign. This sounds ridiculous. Signing a contract of this level is like a joke. Once Suyi does something in the middle, the contracts on both sides will become waste paper. But apart from trusting Suyi, they actually have no other way. Wei has become inseparable from the various weapons and equipment produced in Jiazhao, while Jiazhao is envious of the extremely rich resources in the magic world. Naturally, neither of them is willing to give up such a great opportunity. City Lord, the vanguard army of the northern aliens is less than 30 kilometers away from our outer pass, and they are currently setting up camp there. In the City Lord's mansion, a magician pointed to a location on the map with the information he had just obtained using special magic, and then said, the plain area in front of Mengchuan City, which is the easiest place for a large number of troops to be stationed, has been occupied by us with a pass, and has become an orc territory that depends on us. These alien coalition forces heading south now want to attack, and it is difficult for large-scale troops to deploy quickly. They must set up camp in a relatively open area in the canyon, dozens of kilometers away from the first pass. And because there are too many of them, even if they have found a relatively open area in the canyon, their 5 million troops have to set up camp for more than 100 kilometers. The road they will take to attack the city near our pass is even narrower, and it is difficult for their troops to deploy. In addition, under the advice of our friends in Jiazhao, we have buried all kinds of explosives on this road and laid out minefields stretching for dozens of kilometers. It will probably take a long time for their troops to reach the pass. I estimate it will be at least within 7 days. After all, the mines set by those friends in Jiazhao, even if they are 3rd level, or even if a 4th level warrior steps on it, he will be completely destroyed. If a 5th or 6th level warrior steps on it directly, he will probably have one leg blown off. Only those truly high level warriors and magicians are not afraid of these weapons that are hard to defend against. Even if they have a sufficient number of high level warriors, they probably won't abandon their army and run to our city to die. Therefore, I think this battle may not start in a short period of time. It will take them a long time to clear the mines. During this time, we may have a serious discussion on how to take advantage of the fact that the other party is exhausted by the minefield and has not yet touched our pass, and give them a head-on blow and directly defeat their so-called elite vanguard army heading south. Chapter 225. The current high-level officials in Mengchuan City are not only happy to hear the battle, but they are also not afraid at all when facing the menacing millions of troops. After all, today's Mengchuan City can be said to have a strong army, with more troops than the opponent. with the reinforcement and orcs from all over the country joining. The combat power from high to low is no worse than those of the opposite races. The various weapons and equipment of the army are still more sophisticated than those on the opposite side. In addition to these advantages, they also have the trump card of Kaishu's heavy firepower delivery point, and on the basis of these advantages, they are also a defensive side with a good location point. Fault tolerance can be said to be infinite. It can be said that they don't know how to lose this battle point naturally. What I'm thinking about now is not how to win, but how to win beautifully. The magician's plan was to take the initiative to attack the enemy when they were caught in the minefield and their defenses were down, and find a way to break them up. Although this plan sounded simple and crude, it was not necessarily unfeasible. And this is just one of the ways seeing this. A warrior also stood up, pointed to a certain area in the mountains on the map and said, "You may not know much about the environment around Mengchuan City, but as a descendant of the border guards who were born and raised in Mengchuan City, I have followed my father around the surrounding mountains since I was a child. I can say that I know the surrounding environment very well. I remember that the artillery troops in Kaishu need a flat place to serve as a position to output firepower, right? And if I remember correctly, I once heard General Lin from Kaishu say that the higher the position of the artillery troops, the more intense the firepower projection. How do you say high and low hit? The high and the low beat the fool." A magician added silently, "Yes, yes." The knight slapped his forehead and said quickly, "I happen to know that there is such a place in the mountains. Not to mention that the terrain is very flat. The height on the top of the mountain should be more than 3,000 meters. It is the absolute highest point around Mengchuan City. The location is right here. This mountain has no peaks. According to the legends of the locals here, it is said that in a very ancient period, the war between the two gods of war directly cut off the top of this mountain, so that the height of this mountain should have exceeded the 10,000 meter mountain peak is now only a few thousand meters high, and has become a flat mountain. I have been to that place before. The top of the mountain is extremely flat, just like the plains. I think artillery positions can be set up there, and this is right on the side of the canyon, where the alien vanguard troops are stationed. Once the positions are set up, at least most of the alien camps that stretch for hundreds of miles will be within the range of these artillery. I don't agree." A magician stood up and said, "Leaving the city is too dangerous. Those Kaishu reinforcement have no ability to protect themselves except controlling artillery. Once they encounter high-level warriors and magicians in the alien army in the wild, they may not be able to escape intact. I think they only need to be stationed in the pass as the last line of defense. Once the enemy approaches the pass, they can open fire and drive them back. If the pass cannot be defended, they can also retreat into Mengchuan City and continue to output firepower. Let them press forward like this to occupy the hilltop and project firepower. Of course, it is possible to achieve very shocking results, but once an accident occurs, Mengchuan City will undoubtedly lose an important guard force. This is definitely not worth the loss. With Mengchuan City's current situation, we have no need for them to take such risks when facing these foreign coalition forces. As a magician who stands and outputs, he has a strong sense of the current position of these Kaishu reinforcement. After all, just like him, they have high offense and low defense. The firepower output can blast you to the sky, like even a high-level warrior magician. But if they get close, those weak warriors who can be killed with one shot can also kill indiscriminately. Among these reinforcement, magicians can also use all kinds of fancy means to protect themselves. These reinforcement from Kaishu have almost no power to protect themselves, so this magician is very different from this risky approach. Although Lin Yiling on the side was also listening, he wisely watched the scene with his eyes, nose, and heart, and did not mean to offer any opinions. Essentially, they are here as reinforcement, and it is indeed difficult for them to intervene in other people's internal decision-making issues. If he really encounters a mission that he thinks is extremely dangerous to the Kaishu reinforcement, he will refuse it. When he came to another world, his first task was to help Wei Wei defend Mengchuan City, and his second task was to protect the safety of the soldiers who followed him here. It's not about taking advantage of others and expanding the results. He didn't quite agree with the proposal to leave the city just now. After all, He didn't know enough about the high-end combat forces in the magical world. From the perspective of knowing himself and the enemy, he would not lead his men to leave the safety of the city rashly and take risks. Now that someone has spoken out this issue for him, it would be better for him not to speak. We naturally didn't want to send Kaishu's troops out to take risks, so she shook her head after hearing this. This approach is indeed too risky, but this location is indeed an excellent artillery position. Having said this, we returned to look at Lin Yilang, the commander-in-chief of the reinforcement. General Lin, these days you have trained a group of local artillerymen in Mengchuan City who can operate simple artillery. Can they go out alone to carry out this kind of artillery strike mission? Lin Yilang shook his head when he heard this and said, these people have only learned how to fire and adjust the firing range. They still need to undergo longer training to make various complex adjustments according to the enemy's position. It takes a long time for us to train a qualified artilleryman. You know, in the case of long-range artillery fire, even the wind speed and direction can affect the location of the shells. This is a branch of the army that requires very high professionalism and cannot be trained in a short time. We nodded and asked, is it possible to send some of the Mengchuan City artillerymen who have been trained by you to fire and adjust simply to station in this area, and then draw a group of consultants from your reinforcement to help them adjust these parameters in real time? In this way, you don't need too many people from the reinforcement. Hundreds or thousands of people should be enough. I will send a group of high-level warriors and magicians to protect your people. Once there is danger, take these people back to Mengchuan City quickly. The risk should not be great. What do you think? That's what I said. What else can I think? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.